Good morning and welcome to the Mike Graham Show. I'm Mike Graham and this, of course, is the Mike Graham Show. I look as if I'm slightly off kilter, isn't it? So if I go that way, how about that? Yeah. Is that good? I mean, there's even a mark here, like as to where I'm supposed to be, and I still get it wrong. I mean, that's the beauty of live showbiz, ladies and gentlemen. You know, sometimes you don't quite get it right. Some of you yesterday complained that there was a bit of buffering going on. We don't know what that was about. We've investigated it. We don't think it was our end. It was perfectly good watching the feed on YouTube. If you had an iPad or if you had a phone, I think the problem was if you had a television. So we apologise if any of you had a difficulty watching the show yesterday. But I'm happy to report record numbers, actually, and over 100,000 people watching the show yesterday, which is a record which we have not yet reached before. And so in addition to now in excess of 15 million views, we're now actually going up to, it's already gone, by the way, Pooch, it's like 15.3 million. So we might even hit 16 million by the end of the week. Well, you know, it's absolutely fantastic.
How about celebration coffee?
How about celebration coffee from the world's noisiest coffee machine, which we love, by the way. Thank you, Pooch. Very kind. I mean, a man of so many different hues and octopus hands, or tentacles, I should say. We should give a round of applause, actually, to Pooch already, because, I mean, it's only Wednesday, but, you know, it's 7:02. Why not? Because what a guy. Today, later on, we're going to go down to Shepherd's Bush Empire to talk to the guys down there in preparation for our big live show on the 6th of May. Which is, of course, Mike Graham and friends, including Lewis McLeod and Stephen Barrett, who's going to join me in a second to look at some of the stories on the front pages of the papers today, our favourite barrister. We're also going to be in the company of Right Said Fred, two brilliant musicians who have both, by the way, played selectively and separately with David Bowie and Bob Dylan. By the way, also Carol Decker's going to join us, who is, of course, the lead singer from T'Pau, China in My Hand. We're also going to have a whole host of regular guests, like Will Geddes is going to be there, Emma Wolfe. We're going to be talking to Anna McGovern. We've got, what's her name? Ms. Hawes coming, isn't we?
Yeah, Marilyn Hawes.
Marilyn Hawes is going to be there. We're going to keep her, we're going to lock her in a room, by the way, before we allow her onto the stage so that she can't get too pissed. But there's so much going on, so much to talk about this morning. Lots and lots of different stories. I'm going to do a meltdown on Rachel Thieves, Richard III, who's managed to produce an economy which is so bad that it is now the worst in the G7, right? Not only is she promising on the front page of the Times this morning not to give any more hope to defence funding, she says we haven't got any money for that. We have now increased the numbers of people getting universal credit. Front page of the Sun says Labour has rubber-stamped an extra 1.5 million universal credit claims since they were elected, right? So that's 63,000 last month alone. Military chiefs have said that Prime Minister Keir Starmer is complacent about defence. He keeps talking about being on a war footing, but actually he doesn't have any money. We're still going to talk about the sort of second day, the day after, as it were, the Southport inquiry, because I'm not going to let Keir Starmer away with what he's been trying to get away with, which is that, you know, he's terribly sorry about what happened to those three beautiful young girls who were murdered horrifically by a scumbag man who should never have been in this country in the first place, whose parents are now being probed as to whether or not they should even be in the country, given that they did not give him up to the police in the first place. I don't like to say his name, which is the reason I haven't mentioned it. And the front page of the Daily Mail, we cannot defend Britain with an ever-expanding welfare bill. These are two former Labour Defence Secretaries last night urging ministers to actually slash welfare so that they could boost security. And what's Keir Starmer's answer to all of that? What he says is, let's have another summit. We'll get together, and, you know, this is how important it is, right? We're going to get together and have a meeting on Friday. The European Union are so bothered by what's going on in the Middle East that they waited until they came back from their Easter break before deciding what to do. You know, these people are absolutely and utterly useless, about as useful as a chocolate teapot. Stephen Barrett is with us. He's going to be talking to us right now about what on earth is going on inside this government and what on earth is going on inside the head of the world's most useless, stupid man, Keir Starmer. Mr. Stephen Barrett, a very good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Mike.
I mean, I don't know whether you were as angry as I was yesterday. You probably were, because judging from your some of your tweets that you put out, you are as fed up with this government and this useless Prime Minister as I am. Because not only is he useless, he's actually sort of deliriously wrong about almost everything. But when it becomes insulting to the people of this country, like the parents of those murdered children, where he talks about how much he cares about the safety of children in the United Kingdom, I want to say just F off, but I try not to swear. But that's really how I feel.
Well, I think it's really interesting, and I'd like to pick up on the swearing because I've started doing it in a way that I feel that my granny would not really approve of that. But we live in a time where it feels as though there isn't really any other appropriate response.
Yeah.
The Prime Minister is a liar. He is an utterly dishonorable man. He is a threat to our country because he lies about defense and he lies about how safe we are. And we have seen that we do not have any ships. We have seen that if we get attacked, his response is just to pretend that we weren't attacked, rather than to, deal with the people attacking us. That's Iran, but they blew up our stuff and they fired at us. And in normal times, you would think we would do something about that because that would be unacceptable.
Yeah, which is not our war. Well, it is our war, actually, you complete moron.
It's our war if we get attacked, right? You don't get to pick, lefties. It's not not a picking thing, is it?
Right.
If somebody comes up and hits you in the face, it's your fight.
Right.
That's it.
Yes,
but
I would only hit you back in the face as a defensive manoeuvre.
Yeah, exactly.
I said, we've been making fun of Arsenal all week, not because I'm particularly against Arsenal fans, but because Jonah, i.e. Keir Starmer, has now put the mockers on Arsenal, who are now possibly not going to win the league as a result of his awful, useless, involvement, where he goes and watches a football match in the midst of, what is essentially a massive crisis for the country.
He is the reverse Midas. And
yeah.
He is without question the worst prime minister we've ever had.
Yeah.
I think, and I think I used to caveat that and say things like worst prime minister this century or worst prime minister since the Second World War. But I really think we just have to go all out.
Just go all out. Yeah.
He is the worst we have ever had.
Yes.
The worst thing though, Mike, is the pretending to care about Southport. Given that his reaction to Southport was not to care about those little girls. His reaction was to try and get as many of us innocent people those of us who actually care about Southport into prison as possible. And to destroy as many lives as possible, to lock up. Lucy Connolly is the apex of this. His priority was not to care about the families of the little girls, not to care about the little girls, not to care about the little girls who were in hospital, who are fighting for their lives and who survived, not to care about the dance teacher, who, by the way, Mike, is never far from my thoughts. She I think, has never properly recovered. And if we were a better country, we'd be focused on her. His priority was to get Lucy Connolly into prison. What a weak, pathetic, venal little man he is. And, Mike, then we get things like Nottingham happening. He has allowed, promising to smash the gangs, he has allowed in illegal men who then go on to commit atrocities.
Yes.
And he has hidden behind the fact that they have a mildly different skin color from me as some sort of excuse to allow in dangerous criminal men. I don't care. If these men had exactly the same skin color as me, they'd still be wrong uns. And he has allowed these people in. And I don't know if you watched, and I don't know if you've spoken to her, because I know she's doing media and being terribly brave. But the mother of the young man who was murdered in Nottingham.
Yes, I have spoken to her before. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just absolutely unbelievable. Why should she have to suffer that pain? Why should any of us have to suffer this pain? Why should any of us be subject to these constant attacks? And they are endless. They are daily. They are rapes. They are murders. They are assaults. They are just criminality.
And these are all people. I mean, I saw that there was yet another suspect named in the murder of that young man on Primrose Hill, right? And of course, the first name that we saw was almost unpronounceably long and clearly an African name. The second name is clearly a sort of Indian subcontinent-based name. I'm not going to say it because I can't remember what it is. But, these are two foreign men who may or may not have been born here. I don't know. I suspect they probably weren't. But they're now being charged with the murder of a perfectly innocent young boy who was out on Primrose Hill walking around. He was a film student, helping himself to some nice weather, and he gets stabbed to death by these fucking scumbags, I'm sorry, I can't help it, who have come to this country and who have wrecked this country and who have now left us all wondering when it's going to be our turn to be stabbed to death. That's how it feels.
Yeah, and you can't help it because there is no, and you're trying, like me, you know, and
I really am.
Be honest, my granny is just going to have to forgive us up in heaven. She's going to have to forgive us that we live in times where we have no choice but to swear because there's no other real option. This man did this. Keir Starmer did this. His ideology did this. Labour's ideology did this. They want this. This is the natural end state of everything that they have believed for 30 years. Everything that they have rammed down our throats for 30 years.
Yeah.
This is on them. They own this, and there is no other answer than to swear. And those 3 children in Southport are three too many.
Yeah.
You know, the whole thing is just a car crash of ideology and rubbishness. That the brilliant Donald Trump, because I do think he is so much cleverer than people think. Oh, certainly than they give him credit for.
Totally.
But he just summed it up so simply. He just said socialism is nasty and incompetent.
Yes.
And that's what Keir Starmer is. He's nasty and he's incompetent.
And he's incompetent, yeah, absolutely. And every single time he gets a chance to redeem himself and or take a side, he takes the wrong bloody side. You know, I've just been sent the name, actually, of, is it on screen? Yeah, coming on screen. The second man who's been charged with the murder of Primrose Hill is, the first man was Oluyu Wadamiliole Ogunyankinu, who we think is a Nigerian, and the second man, Khalid Abdul Qadir. You know, I mean, gag me with a spoon, as they say. You know, how unsurprising is it that these 2 characters are being charged? And we can't obviously go into detail because the innocent until proven guilty and all that, cobblers, you know. But how about the idea that a girl who was raped in Epsom, and we still don't know the ethnicity of her attackers, and we had Orla Minahan on yesterday, and she said, look, for all we know, they may be 10 white men that attacked her, but why won't they tell us? They won't tell us, and the more they won't tell us, the more likely it's going to be that they are not 10 white men, that they are 10 either black men or Asian men or men from another country or asylum seekers or something. We don't know, but why won't they tell us? Why will they not be clean and absolutely honest with the people of this country?
Because this is all Starmer is. The idea that you can control a population by lying. It's the apex of Alistair Campbell thinking.
Yes.
This is where we are. And it works in the good times. But when times are bad, people have enough common sense, Mike. They know what's around them. They can see with their own eyes. I like the Spectator, the very Spectator I used to write for, bless it, came out this week with absolute complete nonsense about London, about how London is absolutely fine, and the only reason we think there's a problem with it is because of foreign bots. It's like, well, I'm not a foreign bot.
No.
I'm going into London today. I was in London yesterday, and the Lord God granted me eyes. And with those eyes, I see all the graffiti. I see all the homeless people. I see the people on e-bikes riding around looking dodgy. I hear reports from my colleagues in the office about how, you know, oh, so-and-so had their phone grabbed. So-and-so was stalked. Was it a foreign bot that smashed the back window of my Maserati? Was it a foreign bot that stole my phone out of my hand as I was standing outside Bermondsey Station? You know, was it a foreign bot that I didn't see with my own eyes walking through a barrier at Bond Street Underground Station yesterday without paying? Are they all foreign bots? No, they're bloody criminals. And but this is what they think. They think that they can just lie to us. As long as they lie to us, we will believe the lie, and therefore everything will carry on as it is. It's the most pathetic form of government that there is. It almost always collapses, Mike. This is on its way to total collapse.
It's in decline, isn't it? Last days of Rome time, isn't it?
Yeah, but what I want to flag up is that it's not just phones, it's not just theft, it's not just vandalism, it's not just graffiti and drugs. We had a report in the office of one of our young ladies, you know, early 20s, who was stalked and harassed and sexually harassed. Right. You know, that's what's going on in the streets of London right now.
Yes.
That is what London is. And printing articles from the safety of the Spectator's offices, which are beautiful, by the way, but printing articles that say that London is absolutely safe and it's just a few foreign bots pretending that it isn't, is utterly delusional. It is as delusional as Keir Starmer.
It's worse than that, though, Stephen, isn't it? It's actually dishonest, and that's what I really hate the most. I mean, and I've done this job for a long time, and I spent an awful lot of time last week bemoaning the fact that our media culture now in this country is so hopeless. You know, you get Robert Peston, for example, who was on Plank of the Week last week, walking around with Keir Starmer. I've got an interview with the Prime Minister. Great. Well, ask him something bloody interesting, as opposed to, who's your favourite leader on the WhatsApp group? Oh, he's the Prime Minister of Finland. Oh, isn't it marvellous? Sometimes like a gay boys, convention where they're sitting around in a sauna talking about it. I'm sorry. I would rather you asked him, why is Morgan McSweeney not actually being arrested? Why has Peter Mandelson not been asked to give up his personal phone? Why has the biggest scandal in political history in this century not been sorted out by the police? That's the question I'd like him to answer. But Robert Peston would rather not go there.
Why haven't you resigned, Prime Minister?
Well, that's another good question. Yeah, I mean, we could come up with
one
10, couldn't we?
It's just absolutely unbelievable, Mike. And this idea that this is in any way a sustainable position for Britain to be in is just for the birds.
I know.
Okay, Robert Peston's position is not sustainable. He's not going to survive as a so-called journalist if this is the soft soap that he engages in. No. There are a number of others, and I wonder when we will start naming them. And when it happens, it'll be like a landslide, but it'll be because we've been basically biting our tongue for the last 5 years. But we all know exactly who these people are, complete shills for the regime. Right. But the regime is crap. So why are you shilling for the worst regime we've ever had?
Yes.
How do you think? I mean, I honestly want to sort of mildly hug them and just say, there, darling. But seriously, how do you think this is going to end?
Yeah.
How do you think this is going to end? This is not going to end in glory.
It's like the old school. You're not as old as I am, and luckily for you, you probably don't remember the old days of the Politburo and the Soviet Union before Reagan busted it wide open and actually, changed the world and actually frightened the biggest, threat to our Western values. And made it into just Russia, basically. But, there would be people standing there, Brezhnev, people standing overseeing a huge military parade. And they wouldn't notice that down to the bottom right of the picture was a guy being beaten to death by the military police, And that's kind of where we are now in this country, where we've got people going, oh, look at that, isn't it great? Look, here comes the leader of the Netherlands to Downing Street, and there's Keir Starmer shaking his hand, ignoring the fact that people are shouting at him from across the street. What on earth do you think you're doing? And what about, the fact that you've allowed all these scumbags to come into the country, commit horrendous crimes, and do nothing about it? And in fact, prosecute the people who say they don't like it and put them in prison because they don't like what you're doing. That's where we are.
That is where we are. It is where we are. We are an incredibly weak state, an incredibly weak country, where our Prime Minister is a petty little man who just wants to hurt and punish those of us who notice that everything's falling apart. At the same time, more and more of us are going to notice that everything is falling apart. That is why it's not a sustainable position. The Prime Minister simply, this Prime Minister, I mean, there's a phrase Rome had called damnatio in memoriam, which is where you're just so awful that you are literally stricken from the record. You're literally just damned
as if you
from
never
history.
Were. Yeah,
as if you never were. And I think, well, I mean, Madame Tussauds have refused to do a waxwork of him, and all power to their elbow.
Yeah, and
I'm absolutely with them on that.
Because presumably it'd be more lifelike than he is.
Well, I mean, I just put a wig on a bollard, Mike. But this man is just damnable. He is just absolutely. And the best outcome of all of this is that we all wake up and we all decide to fix our country, and we all decide that this is far enough.
Yeah.
Because if we tolerate any more of this, it's just going to get absolutely worse, Mike. And I don't know if you're covering it. You're probably too highbrow for this, but the nonsense yesterday about an MP, I think she's a minister, calling for things my granny would never want to talk about.
Yes.
To be talked about
a summer
in
of
Parliament.
sex. Yes. No, we will talk about that. I want to talk to you.
Degeneracy.
I want to talk to you about that because we have it here, and she is a rather unfortunately named Samantha Niblett woman. Niblett, obviously, being some kind of sex act, I assume. I don't know. Anyway, we'll come back to that. I'm going to ask you to take a pause, because we both need to, probably, and take a sort of a comedy break, I think is the best way to describe it, because the beautiful Kinsey Schofield is here, live from Hollywood, California, to talk about Call Me Meg. Kinsey, a very good morning to you.
Good morning. Yeah, Meghan Markle, Australia's least favorite duchess, I think, is
Yes.
what we're coming to realize. Not very popular over in Australia.
Well, not very popular anywhere, to be fair. We've actually got a poll going at the moment. I don't know if we can see it, Pooch, where, because she has apparently said in her own inimitable way, please don't call me Duchess, just call me Meg. We've actually asked the audience to nominate names that you would like to call Meghan Markle. We did struggle with this one because we thought, this could be very easy for us to go a bit overboard and get it rather completely and utterly wrong. But here it is. What should we call Meghan? Duchess of Drama, Call Me Meg, Your Royal Highness, or indoors. And it turns out that the popular vote at the moment is going 55% Duchess of Drama, which I think is about right.
I would have gone with unemployed.
Well, I would have gone with something much ruder, actually, but I was warned off by Pooch and I was told I couldn't say that.
Well, you're always a gentleman to me, so I don't believe that.
I am always a gentleman, inevitably. I'm going to show you a little clip. This is not actually from their trip to Australia, but this is from their last appearance at the Albert Hall. And this is brilliant because they'd arrived, apparently, at the Albert Hall a little bit later than they were supposed to. And they thought, mistakenly, that the round of applause that was being handed out was in fact for them, when it was actually for the Royal Marines Band, because people were so excited the Royal Marines Band were there and they wanted to give them a round of applause. These two idiots turn up and think the round of applause is for them. Check it out. Look how happy she is. But they hear me as well. She thinks it's for them. He thinks it's for him as well, and he raises his hand to say, as if to say, thank you for your gratification of us because we're so brilliant. Oh, look, there it is. Oh, look, you're up there as well. Thank you so much. It's not for you, you complete pair of narcissistic idiots, right? It wasn't for them.
I've seen pairs of Spanx that look more comfortable than Meghan Markle makes me.
It's shocking, isn't it? But imagine the sort of deceit of people like that, and the narcissism of people who think that they're getting applauded by an entire, a collection of people inside the Albert Hall. They think they're getting applauded for being who they are, and it's not even an applause for them.
Oh, well, I mean, how do you describe them choreographing ill and dying children in Australia for a PR photo op? I mean, when people are being kind and celebratory on those on those engagements, they're not royal engagements because these two aren't working royals, but everybody's in good spirits because of the children. They're not in good spirits because Harry and Meghan are there. And I just think that there's something really vile about them using not only veterans and homeless, Meghan Markle like dripping in gold as she's feeding people frittatas at a homeless shelter. But children, ill children, to try to salvage what's left of their brand. I think it's really despicable. I do have a scoop for you, though. It's my understanding that Like there's a big headline right now that's like Meghan nowhere to be seen while Harry's talking about mental health and how he sought therapy after Archie was born. And Meghan is MIA. It's my understanding she's filming MasterChef
Oh, really?
in
What?
Australia. So,
Australian MasterChef.
mhm.
Well, that would
Yeah,
make sense because I always thought that the reason for them going was financial, and I assumed that they were having their sort of trip paid for by the wellness retreat, which they're kind of going to do their thing at, which was obviously going to be a new business, and the new business obviously thought if we invest a couple of 100,000 or maybe $500,000 with bringing these characters to Australia, that will actually be good for us because people will start flocking to the place. I don't know, but that makes more sense actually to me.
Well, also she's launched a new AI app,
Right.
similar to the Shop My page, where she was shilling her children's clothing, because that's
Oh,
appropriate.
right.
So she killed that app off pretty quickly after she launched the
Mm.
Confessions of a Female Founder podcast, and with Love Megan. But she's an investor in a new app, and you can buy the clothes she's wearing in Australia on this new app. So
Wow.
there are you're right, it's money. This is a commercially driven trip. I think that they realized they'd be crucified if they were only over there making bank. So they are doing these little faux royal engagements to try to distract from the fact that they are the second coming of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor and Fergie. And
Yes.
they're just chasing a buck.
And they're basically just grifting. Yeah, exactly right. Let's move on to King Charles. He's apparently still coming to the United States of America, despite the fact that Ed Davey, the leader of the Lib Dems, says he shouldn't go because it would be embarrassing. Imagine if Donald Trump says something really awkward when he's standing next to him. That may happen. We don't know. But Charles apparently has already said that he's definitely coming. It's a 4-day trip. They're going, I think, to Bermuda separately after they meet Donald Trump in Washington, D.C. But also, the Queen, Camilla, has turned down an opportunity to meet Jeffrey Epstein's victims on the grounds that it might be a bit embarrassing.
I mean, this is like the most ludicrous headline to me because criminal prosecutions are brought in the name of the crown.
Yeah.
Did we really expect King Charles or Camilla to disrupt an active investigation regarding Andrew Mountbatten Windsor sharing government secrets with Jeffrey Epstein by meeting with Epstein victims in the United States? I think that that's slightly ludicrous. The king wouldn't do anything to jeopardize that active investigation. Especially because he can't stand his brother. So I don't think he would want to hurt the investigation in general. And I also think he doesn't want to hurt the investigation because Andrew's annoying, and becomes such a stain on the British royal family.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're going to visit. In Washington, they're celebrating the 250th anniversary of American independence. I'll be there. And then in New York, they are expected to it says highlight the UK's relationship with the US through culture, community, and economic growth. They're going to Virginia, where they say they're going to connect with local communities, heritage, and nature. So we should be getting some good visuals. Keep in mind, King Charles is still ill. I think it's incredibly courageous and brave for him to continue to work as hard as he does while he's sick. And I'm looking forward to the visit. But will Donald Trump embarrass him? I just saw a quote where Trump says Diet Coke is okay for him because it kills grass, so it's probably killing cancer inside of his body. That was from the New York Post. Yeah, I think Donald Trump's going to say something crazy, or he's going to post a picture of him, maybe not as Jesus Christ, but I don't know, maybe Godzilla. We don't know.
Maybe he'll post a picture of himself as the King of England or something, because it is a celebration, as you say, of independence when America finally lost the yoke of the British Empire. But he seems to be. I mean, Donald Trump does seem to be going through a kind of a slightly unusual period, shall we say, in his own mind, because I think the problem is for him, and I'm a big admirer of Donald Trump, and I think most people misunderstand him. However, I think the trouble is there's now nobody to tell him not to do it. He's not. He's like a talk show host without a producer, as I say. Where I go, I know. Let me do this, and Pooch goes, no, I don't think that's such a good idea. Okay, then I won't do it. He hasn't got anyone saying that to him.
I completely agree with you. You know, I'm scared. I'm scared for all of us, is basically all I can say. There are a lot of people in my life right now that are messaging me going, "Can you believe this?" And I'm saying, "No." I'm actually fact checking them because I can't believe it.
Yeah.
You're right. I think that he just feels incredibly invincible right now, and that can be very dangerous.
Yeah, yeah, I know. Strange times indeed, but very comforting to see you there, Kinsey, looking as gorgeous as ever and being very serene, to be honest, in the
Oh,
midst of it all. So well done. Thank you so much. And we'll
hey,
maybe talk
let
to
me
you.
know. Let me know if you want me to do any coverage for you while I'm in DC
Oh, we
for
would
the
love that.
250th.
We would
Yeah.
absolutely love that. Yes, please. Yeah, I mean, let us book you now for that. That would be tremendous. Thank you very much indeed. If indeed the world is still here and nothing has changed and it hasn't spun off its bleeding axis, that would be wonderful. Kinsey Schofield, great to see you. Thank you very much indeed. A very
Thank you.
happy Wednesday to you. It's not quite, well, I suppose, it's not quite Wednesday in America at the moment. Stephen Barrett, who's been waiting very patiently. She is the most wonderful, serene individual, isn't she not? And, you know,
She's a lot more glamorous than me.
I don't know about that, Stephen. You know, listen, you know, it's 7:30 in the morning. You look pretty glamorous to me, honestly. And it's not just because I'm getting on a bit. But, you know, let's talk about the King's trip to America, because there are people who, like Ed Davey, say, oh, he shouldn't be going. Ed Davey, the world's biggest waste of space, who's managed to, in the moment when we've got the most unpopular Prime Minister of all time, he's managed to become even more unpopular by going down in the polls, right? Nobody knows why. But he doesn't think the King should go to America. What do you think?
Ed Davey drove sub-postmasters to take their own lives,
Yes.
and then profited from the entire endeavour. I have absolutely zero respect for Ed Davey. Every time I see him in life, on the telly,
Yeah.
in social media, in the media, I have nothing but contempt for the absolute sinister clown of a man. So I have no interest in his opinion on anything.
Yeah.
We should turn our mind to the simple question of, is America our most important ally? The answer to that question is yes.
Yeah.
Therefore, should our king or queen, whoever we have at the time, visit the United States? Yes. Is it a good thing when they get to? Yes. Should we support the tour? Yes. I don't see how it goes any other way.
Yeah.
It's a simple. I really do worry about British politicians or British public figures who take incredibly strong positions on the United States. There was an election in the United States which Donald Trump won. His opponent was Kamala Harris. If Kamala Harris had won, I would still want the king to go over and visit Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
I would take I take no public position ever on American democracy. Why would you? It's their choice. They pick who they want. Once they've picked who they want, we support them. It's really very simple. That, you know, the current left bleat on about foreign election interference, yet spend all their time interfering in foreign elections.
Yeah.
And foreign democracy. We have nothing to say about the United States democracy. They pick who they want, and then we show them that we are their ally. That's it. It's really that simple, and it's quite a nice, simple life. I hope King Charles and particularly Camilla, who I deeply respect, have a lovely time. I hope she gets to have a cigarette break. I hope she gets to have a gin and tonic. I hope that, you know, that it's a lovely party, and I hope that relations between our two great nations are strengthened further, because they are without question our single most important ally on this planet, and we should carry on always strengthening relations with the United States.
Yes, I think I could not agree more with that statement. I think you're absolutely right. And, you know, King Charles is a big enough boy to deal with Donald Trump, quite frankly. If Donald Trump does say something slightly off colour or slightly weird, which I don't think he would do, actually, because I think he does actually respect the king. You know, I'm sure Charles can handle it. But let's return to what you mentioned just before we spoke to Kinsey Schofield, which is this Samantha Niblett, Labour MP woman, who wants to encourage everyone to have a summer of sex in 2026. She wants to remind people that sex is a joyful thing, despite apparently lessons at school being quite medical. And she's talking about bringing sex toys into Parliament. I think she's going to be a bit of a surprise when it turns out that she's not the first person that's brought sex toys into Parliament, because I think the Tories and many of their backbenchers have been doing it for years.
Well, that's a terrible but slightly tragically probably true
Right.
point. First of all, get her out of schools. What the hell is she doing talking about kids? Get away from the kids, you weirdo.
Yeah.
They see themselves as progressive and cool. That's basically all the Labour Party is now. It's basically a slightly nerdy, sad 17-year-old that nobody actually wants to
Yes.
talk to, trying desperately hard to be cool. This is not cool. I think we need to go back to the morality of my granny and realize that this is simply not on. The House of Commons is the it's the apex of our democracy. It is an incredibly important and special place. I encourage everybody listening and viewing to go there. I think we all have we do all have the right to go there, but I think we all have the need to go there and experience Parliament in its full and in its majesty. And it is not a place for this type of pure smuttery.
Right.
She is a morally degenerate woman. That's all that she is. She is of no intellectual value to the world. She has no morals, and she is a complete waste of time. But this is sadly where we get to in this type of society, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
It will get even worse. Moral degeneracy is actually baked into the type of political system that we have, because they need to constantly push for boundaries, and there are no boundaries. So
Right.
it's just going to get even worse. You know, we will in the coming years, unless we reverse course and actually restructure and fix our country into being something respectable and something we're all proud to belong to. In the coming years, we will look back on this as mild. It's going to get even worse than this. And if people need to experience this, I really can't recommend enough the Oscar-winning film Cabaret, because Cabaret depicts the descent of the Weimar Republic into moral degeneracy,
Yes.
which is what we are going to go through. And if we do not fix it, if we do not stop it now, if we do not say this to this woman, enough is enough. If she's allowed to turn around and go, oh, he's some kind of old fogey, he's just trying to, be a square. And if she's allowed to do that, then it will get worse. Please, God, let this woman be the last line, be the place where we draw a line in the sand and say, enough. No. Sex toys in Parliament? No. You are a moral degenerate? No. Go away? No.
Yeah,
we really need to. And Churchill warned us. Churchill said the most important word in the English language is the word no.
Right. Which is a word that the left don't like very much, because nothing requires them to say it. I want to display my Palestinian flag outside the Israeli embassy. They don't say no. I want to be able to shout at Jewish people, that you're a Zionist baby killer. They don't say no. I would like to be able to wear my dress the wrong way round and put my genitals on the outside of my clothes to prove that I'm a woman. No. She says, right, that she's viewed content on a website called Make Love Not Porn, which apparently aims to offer an alternative to hardcore pornography. She says it shows real people having messy, funny, intimate, sensual sex together. I'm not saying anybody's sex preferences are wrong, but I think if you're desensitized to think some things are normal, it skews your view about what real sex is with real people who are not actually in a porn film. Well, I'm sorry, darling, they are actually in a porn film. They're just calling it something else. They're filming themselves having sex, and they're showing it to you.
No.
Just no.
Just no, Mike.
Yeah.
No.
Right.
Shut up. No. And you see, as ever with the left, it's come from a woman, because the idea that because they will then you see what they do, they're very cunning. They'll be able to leap on this, and they'll be able to call me all sorts of nasty little names and say that I'm attacking a woman. No, I'm attacking an idea, an ideology that is perverse, that is morally degenerate. This woman is suggesting and promoting morally degenerate ideas. She is not acceptable in a decent society. Quite frankly, Mike, I think that the Speaker of the House of Commons should discipline her, because I think that House needs to show that it is grown up and mature. You wouldn't find a noble baroness in the House of Lords saying,
well, do you
this
know,
type
isn't
of
it
stuff.
interesting? And we
Or
haven't
not yet.
Yeah, well, isn't it interesting? Because I'd like to get your view on it. I know what your view is, but after yesterday's horrific report on the Southport killings, one of the things that we'd forgotten about, but which I was reminded of because of the fact that we had to go back into what happened, was that Lindsay Hoyle, the supposedly democratically appointed, shall we say, not elected Speaker of the House, had banned Nigel Farage and anybody else from asking a question about the identity of the killer. Do you remember that? in what was an incredible, I think, misuse of his powers, an incredible kind of crushing of democracy, supposedly in order to protect the legal process. Now, you're a barrister, and I had a massive row with Lord Carlisle about it, funnily enough, on my old show on tour, and we played that out yesterday. But, you know, there was no excuse for that, because there was no legal basis in which any trial could have been affected by a question being asked in the House of Commons by Nigel Farage or anybody else about the identity of the killer.
No, that you're absolutely correct there. If Lord Carlisle took the opposite position, then he's an idiot. He's wrong on law.
Yeah.
And as we saw with Mr. Justice Goose, there was never any danger to the process of that criminal proceedings. Mr. Justice Goose is the height of our judges. He's absolutely everything we should want in our judges, and we should be terribly proud that we as a nation have Mr. Justice Goose, who dealt with the Axel Rudikamana situation incredibly well. But the more interesting point to me, Mike, is the way that we live in a time in which there are simultaneously no laws and then all the laws at once. So simultaneously, you know, I've just called on Lindsay Hoyle to do something about this moral degenerate MP minister saying absolutely vile things, proposing to bring absolutely vile things into the House of Commons. And he will turn around and say, if we asked him, you know what he would do? He would say, I don't have the power to do that. Like the commissioner of the Metropolitan Police, who turns around constantly and goes, I don't have the power to do that.
No.
But all of a sudden, when it's politically convenient for them, they have all the power in the bloody world.
Yes. Oh, look, I've pulled a couple of levers like the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain. Oh, look, I can stop anything from happening.
Our judges are independent. Oh, Lucy Connolly, go to prison quick. It's just like, this is pathetic. You cannot possibly expect me to believe you. You cannot possibly expect me to believe you. And I don't think they do, Mike. I think it's slightly more sinister than that. I think they get off. I think they are weird. I keep returning to this, but with this morally degenerate lady, that they are somehow this weird fetishist type people. And they quite like rubbing our noses in the fact that they will publicly state, I have no power to do that, when we want them to do something good and morally useful with their legal powers, and then they will crack down on us like a ton of bricks the minute we step out of line. So there are no laws except for us. There are no laws for the shoplifter, no laws for the fare dodger, no laws for the rapist, no laws for the illegal immigrant, no laws, you know, for them.
Right.
Every law for us.
Yes.
And that is,
well, look at,
is the only we live in.
Exactly right. And I've got to let you go, even though I can't bring myself to let you go. There's so much I want to mention to you and talk to you about. But, you know, imagine the scene in the Chagos Islands off the coast of this beautiful paradise-like island in the South Pacific, where suddenly people that you never see in the English Channel, i.e. police, border control, customs officials, boarding a vessel to check it out, to see whether or not you're delivering sleeping bags, blankets, water purification equipment to some honestly British citizens who are occupying British territories in a place where they're entirely legally allowed to be, but in order to stop them from being able to have a life there. Unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah, we can't stop rapists and murderers coming by boat into this country, but apparently we can stop desalinization tablets going to going to Chagos. Well, it's just a joke. But this is it. It's this similar, and we don't have a term for it. We're going to have to develop new terms to understand the world we live in, Mike. But it's this idea that there are no laws for some and all the laws for others. It's this absolute paradox, this dichotomy between the two situations. The Speaker of the House of Commons, I think, completely brutally suppressing Nigel Farage, brutally suppressing valid discussion of what happened in Southport. Yes. But we know he would be performatively pathetic on this morally degenerate woman. He probably won't even be called upon to address it, because the idea that we should stop a woman bringing these things into Parliament. But I saw one of your comments, because I get to see some of the super comments.
Yeah.
And it was absolutely spot on. This woman does not get to go near children, okay? She is a moral degenerate. Yeah. She is not safe near children, okay? We're just not having any of this discussion, because we're only going to fix this by talking about it in public, and things are getting bad. Things are going to get worse. Let's keep everybody who's dangerous or just on the other side of the aisle from me, away from kids. Okay, let's keep the kids safe whilst
Let's
we
just
have
keep
this.
that safe. Absolutely. Final word. Very excited. Only 3 weeks away now from May the 6th and our joint appearance on the Mike Graham and Friends show at the Shepherd's Bush Empire. I'm told that I can tell you with some pride, Stephen, that you and I will be opening the show together. You will be the first guest. You will be the first guest on stage, and it will be very much like this, where we just talk about, you know, the stuff that's annoying us, the stuff that really gets to us, a few funny clips. We certainly want you to do that voice again, of, you know, well, you know, whether you do it Starmer-like or you know, Lindsay Hoyle-like. I don't have the power to do that. You know, it's vaguely, it's vaguely Japanese sounding.
Have you seen the Met? The Met Commissioner is a pathetic, tiny, weak man who pretends to not have powers, then loses his rag and knocks microphones out of journalists.
Oh, I know. I know.
Pathetic little man he is.
Ridiculous. I preferred Cressida Dick, to be honest, but that's another story. Anyway, listen, great to see you, Stephen. Thank you so much for talking to us, as ever, with your great wisdom. And we will be very, very excited to see you. And we'll see you before that, obviously, but Wednesday, the 6th of May, 3 weeks from now, ladies and gentlemen. And in fact, Pooch and I are going down there today to the Shepherd's Bush Empire to do a little promo video where I may or may not be singing I'm Too Sexy for My Shirt, because, of course, the two Right Said Freds are going to be there as well. But it's all going to be great stuff. Stephen, thank you very much indeed. Stephen Barrett, ladies and gentlemen, what a guy. And also what a great brain he's got and what great opinions he's got as well. You don't even have to agree with all of them, but he's so brilliant at explaining what is wrong with this country. Right now, another man who's going to explain what's wrong with this country, perhaps slightly more from a financial point of view, Mr. Mark Littlewood from Popular Conservatism and, of course, our economist of choice here at the Mike Graham Show. Mr. Littlewood, how are you, man?
Very good, Mike. Very good. Coming at you from Mallorca today, where it's
very
nice and warm and peaceful.
Lovely. Excellent. I do like the fact that you just kind of take off and decide to head for the sunshine whenever you feel like it. You know, it's brilliant stuff. Lots to talk about, including, of course, the fact that Richard III, Rachel Reeves, has managed to take us down the gurgler even further than we were before, where the world's economy is going to affect every country in the world, but nowhere worse than they're going to affect us. In the G7, we are going to be the worst hit economy in the G7. How has she managed that?
It's unbelievable, and it is a build-up of absolutely dreadful policies, really. I mean, bear in mind, under Mad Ed Miliband, we are not exploiting our natural energy resources, so we are a huge net importer of energy. So if there's a big energy spike, we're in a whole load of trouble. We're also a net importer of food. Food prices are going up. And just look at how utterly useless her forecasting has been. Right, so the assumption was apparently, with all of the forecasters and the OBR advising this government on what our likely growth rates are, and therefore how much tax they can count on, and all that sort of stuff. But Donald Trump was never going to do anything unexpected that might have an impact on the British economy. That was built in, apparently, to their forecasting model. So there is absolutely no room for manoeuvre when something like this happens. Is it going to tip us into recession? Quite possibly. But it seems evident now that the economy is going to continue to flatline, and the Labour government is exacerbating that and worsening it. We are becoming a country which is dedicated to providing welfare, not the defence of the realm, and no encouragement to entrepreneurialism or hard work or those who want to strive, because taxes are going up and up and up. And even if you're able to run a business, the regulation is going to throttle you. A bleak, bleak picture. If Rachel Reeves carries on like this, put a fork in us, we're cooked. Yeah, we really are. I mean, front page of The Sun this morning, two stories which I suppose we could take a different view on, but one, first of all, more worryingly, Labour has rubber-stamped an extra 1.5 million universal credit claims since the election. So since they got in, an extra 1.5 million people are now claiming universal credit, 63,000 last month alone. I mean, forget about the two-child benefit cap being lifted. Forget about all the extra money being given to benefit claimants, which amounts to an effective pay rise, if you like. And in terms of the two-child benefit cap, an extra $6,500 for thousands and thousands of families. And they've then got another story saying a mind-boggling £1 billion plus prize is up for grabs in one of the two new games unveiled by lottery bosses. I mean, maybe the government could apply and just buy a load of tickets
and that would keep them going for what, a couple of days on the interest payments?
Yeah, not very long at all. No, look, I mean, Mike, you're right. Look, you get in our economy, you get what you incentivize, right? If you incentivize something, more people will tend to do it. If you disincentivize something, fewer people will tend to do it. And what we've decided to do under this government is to incentivize welfareism.
Yeah.
I'm almost surprised that the new claimants are that low, because the message is loud and clear. If you can find a reason not to enter the workforce, or some claim as to why you are not fit to work, ideally a mental health claim, which are very, very hard to disprove rather than a physical health claim, then we will give you money. Well,
Yeah.
it is no surprise people are queuing up for this. We've now got ourselves, I think it was last week the statistics came out, into the ludicrous situation in which welfare handouts now cost more than the total income tax coming into the Treasury. Income tax does not cover the welfare bill. This is a total disaster, but an unsurprising one. If you incentivize people not to work, they won't work. And it's right across the piece. So, in fact, my father was pointing out to me the other day, let's imagine that you want a day out with the family to, let's say, visit the Tower of London.
Yes.
Well, a standard price, if you want to take yourself, your other half and your two kids, would be 108 quid to get into the Tower of London. However, if you're on welfare, it's only 4 quid.
You know, I only discovered this yesterday. Kelvin Mackenzie was in yesterday and he was telling me this story. Same goes for London Zoo. What is going on? You know, I totally get the fact that, you know, if you are in need of what we used to call supplementary income or job seekers allowance or whatever the hell it is while you're in between jobs, fine. But, you know, you don't get to go to football for less money than I do, or, you know, the Tower of London, or, you know, a trip up and down. You know, what next? Maybe they'll start giving them, you know, a discount on EasyJet flights to Mallorca.
Yeah, well, here's hoping, Mike. You know, then it will be.
No, sorry, you won't get one because, you know. Yeah, but you won't get one. It will just be, you won't be able to get a ticket because it'll be full of scumbags who can't be bothered working and who just fancy going on holiday.
Yeah, quite. So, I mean, it's ludicrous that a visit to the Tower of London is now effectively within our welfare state. I'm with you. Look, you know, people who are, you know, suffering, ideally over the short term. Of course, there are some people who need lifelong support, but ideally, for those of working age, it should be a temporary bridge. And we've got to get back to the founding principles of the welfare state. If you look back to the Beveridge report, which set up the welfare state. Now, Beveridge was a kind of lefty liberal, right? He was no hardcore conservative. Nevertheless, his principle was that the welfare state should provide temporary support at subsistence levels. Now, we might have a bit more money today than we did in the 1940s, but I think that principle is a good one. It should just act as a bridge while you're trying to get yourself back onto your feet. It should not be a permanent lifestyle. And this is destroying the economy, not just because of the north of 300 billion quid that we're spending on it, but as I say again and again, because of the incentive effects. You are better off now, potentially, to try and play the system and claim welfare than you are to find a meaningful job, even if that job is on the sort of lower rungs of the ladder.
And it's, you know, it used to be the case that you would say, well, you know, I'd have to pay rent if I had a job, I'd have to pay council tax if I had a job. Now you're going to say, I'd have to pay for my kids to go to London Zoo when I can go for like bugger all. It's absolutely incredible. I mean, what next? You know, vouchers for Pizza Express, you know, like they do at Tesco's. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's what's the word? Two-tier Britain, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm basically now subsidising anybody who's unemployed to go and do the things that I can't afford to do.
I think that's exactly how folk will feel. That, you know, if you're earning money and want to take, again, to use that 108 quid for a family of 4 to visit the Tower of London, well, you've got to, you know, you potentially got to earn 150 quid in order, once you've paid your tax, to have the money left in your pocket in order to afford that. So everywhere the incentives are wrong. It seems to me evident now that the government's not going to get a grip on this. I mean, for God's sake, to begin to address the ludicrous, the internationally embarrassing status of Britain's defences, absolutely pathetic. You know, this is why we have a Prime Minister prancing around the world, issuing word salad press releases rather than us really having any serious military ability. We've let down our armed forces appallingly. We could just trim the welfare bill a bit and put that money into defence. But no, Rachel Reeves is more or less ruling that out. There's going to be only a modest increase in defence expenditure. So look, we're going to need a government that needs to completely reset and restore this country. We've got to get the priorities of government spending right. And those priorities are defending Britain, defence of the realm, ensuring that we have a functioning justice system. Well, that's on the floor as well. And ensuring that we have a decent police force in order to keep security within the country. You've got to do those three things before you turn your attention to anything else. But those three things now seem to be pretty much bottom of the list, lowest priority for government expenditure.
Well,
absolute madness.
Yeah, absolute madness, because surely, I mean, the whole point of what Starmer's been saying and his ridiculous little mini summit that he's going to have on Friday with 14 like-minded, countries who are going to come together and make a resolution about how they should open the streets of Hormuz without actually having any boats with which to do it. And he then gets his Chancellor, who comes out in the Times today, as you say, to say, no, sorry, you can't have any more money. And even if you did have any more money, we wouldn't be giving it to you for at least another year or two. And so there's actually no expense being spent at all on our defences. Nothing. Bugger all.
Yeah, it's an absolute shocker. It is true that in the defence sector, it takes longer to turn around. So even if you've turned the taps on generously now, it's not as if we would suddenly get back to having a decent defence force in weeks or months. It will take years, but all the more reason to give it absolutely urgent priority. But these are just not the issues that motivate Labour backbenchers. That you've got 400 or so Labour MPs, the overwhelming majority of whom are concerned about protecting an incredibly high welfare bill and very generous treatment of public sector workers who are now typically higher earners than private sector workers. So those are the interests represented on the Labour benches, mixed in, of course, with some who think that the most important thing facing the country at the moment is that there aren't enough sex toys in Parliament, which you've been discussing a little bit earlier. These are the bizarre predilections of the Parliamentary Labour Party. And even if Rachel Reeves or Keir Starmer wanted to do something marginally in this direction, they would find themselves thwarted by it. So you mentioned, we're only a few weeks away, I know, from your big live event, but the day after that, of course, we've got elections up and down the land, and it's going to be very interesting to see what the British people make of the pitiful state of our country at the moment and what sort of message and signal they send. I suspect it will be a brutal one.
I suspect you were absolutely right about that. And in fact, we're sort of trying to figure out whether we should have the party on Friday when we're not sure if there'll be enough votes actually counted, because we are famously useless at counting council election votes. And we might have to wait until Monday to have the party, but we might get a few balloons and a couple of banners ready for Friday, just in case. But listen, great to see you. A couple of people asking if you get still 4 passport photos for about 10 quid in one of those booths that you're sitting in at Mallorca Airport. But more importantly,
well, maybe it's 100 quid if you work and only 4 quid if you don't.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If you've got a job, it's £1,000, right? What I was going to ask you, though, was because we saw yesterday an awful lot of people complaining about the new European Union rules on going in and out of countries. How was your arrival into Mallorca? How was that?
Yeah, it was a little bit awkward, to be honest, because we successfully went through these fingerprint machines. Why Schengen needs the fingerprints of every British citizen who visits the EU, I don't know. That seemed to work. But then the machines on which you have to put your passport in, so you've now got a double check on 2 machines, they completely failed. So we all had to queue up for to have an actual human passport officer stamping all of our stamps. Fortunately, we were quite close to the front of the queue, but that would have been a delay. So getting in was suggested to me the technology doesn't work. So who knows, Mike? Maybe I won't be able to come back and I'll have to stay here in the sun.
That would be terrible. Dreadful news. Also, we'd miss out on us going to those dark, dingy wine bars, on occasions.
Yeah,
for,
right. No, you're right. You're persuaded me. I'm going to have to make it back.
You will have to make it back for that. Absolutely brilliant to see you. Mark Littlewood, thank you very much indeed. Popular Conservatism, of course, over in Mallorca. If you're travelling to Europe, I mean, there is now this ridiculous, manoeuvre that some countries are practising more than others, which is basically just, how to piss off the British because they don't want to be part of the European Union. And you have to put your fingerprints on a machine. You have to do some kind of facial recognition. Nobody wants that, right? Nobody needs it. Nobody needs to do it. And so eventually it'll all settle down. Probably by the summer it will be fine and nobody has to worry about it. We've got a poll going at the moment, which is, of course, about Meghan. Meghan and Harry, the Duchess and Duke of Drama, are down in Australia trying to drum up some interest in what they do. She says, don't call me the Duchess, call me Meg. That's the headline in the Daily Mail today. So we've said, what should we call Meghan? And obviously my original suggestion was too rude to put on the poll, but should it be her indoors? 35% if you say that. Your Royal Highness, 2%. She won't like that. Call me Meg, 8%, but the winner at the moment, Duchess of Drama, 55%. Harry probably calls her all sorts of different things, and she probably tells him exactly what she needs to be called. But we will carry on regardless. But do keep voting. Lots and lots of you are getting involved in that. Also, coming up a little bit later on in the show, we're going to talk to Chris Rose. He's going to be here very shortly. We're also going to be talking to Howard Cox. We've also got big news. We've got Liz Truss in a little bit later on, the former Prime Minister of this great country of ours. And also Sarah Pochin from Reform. So it's all going on. It's all kicking off. And as I said, yesterday was the highest number of all time that we've ever had watching the show. Over 100,000 people watched the show yesterday, which quite frankly is mind-boggling and very, very good for us. Judas Goat says this, great show, Mike. Congrats on the ratings numbers. Thank you very much indeed. Fastest growing show on the planet. Agree totally with Stephen Barrett. Just no. Says Justine. And one from Red Rock who says, Stephen and Mike, two gents that get my full respect. What are their thoughts on Starmer becoming £30 million richer since entering number 10? Is he? I mean, the trouble is now when you become Prime Minister, like Tony Blair, you become a very wealthy individual. It'd be nice if he could go back to Lord Alley and get his suits properly fitted, though, because the one he was wearing the other day looked too big for him. Dr. David Frankenbrand, net zero madness, says LTL. Is that Miliband? Yeah. And Kiki says she should be more worried about syphilis rates. I think she's talking about the Labour MP, Samantha Niblett, rather unfortunately named, who wants to bring some sex toys into Parliament. As I said, I've got some news for her. There's already some in there. Just pop to the House of Lords and you'll see there's plenty of people using them, even as we speak. Coming up, we're going to speak to Chris Rose. Should we do some news first? Yeah. Edward Hughes is back with the news. Let's have a look.
Good morning, it's me, Edward Hughes, with your news. Great, the IMF just crowned us the G7's biggest economic loser, slashing growth forecasts thanks to the Iran war sending petrol prices through the roof. Well done, Richard III. Meanwhile, former NATO boss Lord Robertson has pointed out that our national security is in peril because the government's been too busy expanding the welfare budget to buy any actual tanks. And after yesterday's cheeky burst of warm weather, normal service has resumed, grey skies, and patchy rain are back to remind us it's still April. Are you going to the live show on May 6th? MG, Lewis MacLeod, Right Said Fred, Carol Decker, and so many friends of the show. I'll be there with Fiona and we cannot wait. Even Donald MacLeod will make an appearance. Please remember to like and subscribe. Laters Tigers.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed for the plug, Edward Hughes. I think there's probably an Ofcom rule about newsreaders plugging live shows, but we don't care because we're not governed by them. So you can stick two fingers up to them. How about this, though? Carol Decker's been on, and she goes, for Christ's sake, can you get it right? Is China in your hand? Not China in my hand. Well, it's because she once upbraided me for getting it wrong before, right? And then she said this, right? Now, I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but she said, and I said, you should be careful how you phrase this. But she sent me some pictures. She says, yeah, I bet you're excited about the show. We are as well. We smashed Bush Hole on Sunday. And I went, sorry? Apparently that's a venue. And then she sent me some pictures of them playing live to POW at Bush Hole, China in your hand and all that. And she says, yeah, I really should stop dictating that. But yeah, it doesn't sound good, does it? Anyway, any more super chats coming or we're all up? Okay, so we've got Howard Cox coming up, we've got Liz Truss coming up, we've got Sarah Pochin coming up. Chris Rose is our next guest and he is here with us right now. Chris, very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Mike. Morning.
Very good to see you. How are you doing?
Good, fantastic, really. Fantastic.
Excellent. Well, you're doing a lot better than the rest of us then, because most of us are sitting here going, what on earth is going to come next? You know, we've got a completely collapsed economy, worst G7 country in the whole, G7. We're going to be affected worse than anybody else. We're getting the most expensive petrol to put in our cars, the most expensive diesel to put in our cars. We'll talk to Howard Cox about that in a minute. The most expensive property rates going, the most expensive mortgage rates going. You know, the country's on its knees, basically, and all we've got is Starmer going, let's have another summit to discuss how to stop the blockade of the Straits of Hormuz, which he can't do. What's he doing? What's going on?
Exactly. I mean, we've got all these issues. I read as well that unemployment's meant to go up as well. But instead, what are Labour focused on? Well, we have a Labour MPs focused on, sex toys in Parliament.
Oh.
You know, Keir Starmer wants to go abroad, as you mentioned. And, you know, just yesterday, President Trump wrote a tweet saying that why isn't the UK drilling as we should be? We should be drilling North Sea. And he's absolutely right. You know, that would help to, stabilise our, energy prices. It would help us a lot. But we have the Ed Miliband, who's a net zero fanatic. So they're not really focused on what would help us. They're focused on their ideology. And, as the other guests previously mentioned, we have a massive welfare bill as well that we're paying that could easily be cut down as well. We should be prioritising on spending for our defence as well, because that's weakened, not just Labour, unfortunately, it's the previous Tory government as well. So we've got all this going on, and they're not really focused on helping us at all, because I can't think of anybody who I personally know who's pleased with the amount they're paying for bills or the amount.
Well, that's because you don't know anyone who's unemployed, Chris, because if you did, they'd all be going, yeah, this is all great, because have a look at this on the front page of The Sun this morning. Labour has rubber-stamped an extra 1.5 million universal credit claims since they were elected, right? 63,000 just last month were given universal credit. And this new thing, which I only learned about yesterday, because I don't know what I was doing last week, but I totally missed it, where you're not only now are you given unemployment benefit effectively for the rest of your life if you want it, and not only are you given extra benefits if you've got more kids, but you're also now given discounts at places like the Tower of London, if you want to take your family there, or the London Zoo. It's a two-tier system, and you're much better off now. I mean, if you're one of those people with, say, 4 kids, why on earth would you ever want to get a job?
Exactly. There's no incentive to actually work hard anymore. Because I remember reading yesterday that in 2019, there was just about 3 million people who were on the universal credit. Now it's about 8 million. So it's actually, gone up substantially within the short space of time. And like you say, it's, going to these places that they have this reduced amount for UC placements. It should be an absolute treat going to places in London. They should be, you should work hard for it. There should be an incentive to do that so you can please your children and take them there.
Absolutely.
So, getting it for £4 when somebody working is getting it for £100 is absolutely ludicrous.
It's mad.
I think it's unfair. Yeah, absolutely.
It's totally unfair, but it also shows you that the skewed nature of the Labour kind of mindset is that, all they want to do is help people who can't be bothered getting a job. Of course, we know there are people who can't work, and there are people who need, assistance, and they need welfare and all of that. But there are an awful lot of people who are just simply swinging the lead, and they don't fancy working, they don't fancy getting up early in the morning. And they're now rewarding those people and saying, if you fancy a nice day out, don't worry, you can go to the front of the queue. I mean, it's like sort of first class in reverse, isn't it? When you're standing there, getting speedy boarding on EasyJet, the people getting speedy boarding now are the people who haven't paid.
Absolutely. I think it's absolutely disgusting. And in a way, it is Labour trying to bribe people who, the worst types of people who are just lazy, and they know they're going to get away with it. They know there's a system to take advantage of. These are the type of people they're prioritising. What about all the people who want to start a business, the entrepreneurs, the future entrepreneurs as well? What are they doing? They're leaving Britain. So, we've got this drain of actual skills and wealth that we're not seeing, and we're left with what? Picking up the bill for UC claimants. Some of these people are people who arrived here quite recently as well, as nationals and whatnot. So they wouldn't be allowed to claim, but under our system, they currently can. And I think, it's absolutely disgusting because I remember the days when hardworking parents used to have to save quite a lot and work really
and it was a treat to say, if you don't live in London, it's a treat to go to the Tower of London for the day. But if you live in somewhere like, I don't know, Tunbridge Wells in Kent, right? Or even, I don't know, Maidenhead, or, somewhere in the home counties, right? If you've got a family of 4, it's going to cost you over 100 quid on the train, probably, to get to London. it's going to cost you over 100 quid to go to the Tower of London, so 200 quid before you've even had anything to eat. And if you go out, probably another 100. You're talking 300 quid for a day out for a family of 4 if you happen to have a job. And these bozos are getting it basically for free. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Exactly. And, as a working hard British citizen who's paying taxes, you should be absolutely furious at it.
Of course.
Because, when I was a child, my parents used to work very hard just to take us on, a family trip every year. They didn't get any help from the government to say, oh, you get it reduced, you get, a day out for 5 quid or whatever.
Yeah.
But, nowadays they have that for people who, they look at it and think, what's the point in me working? Where's the incentive to go out and get a job? They just think, oh,
my 2 youngest sons, right, both now working in various different ways. One of them's still at university, but he works, work behind the bar. They're getting emergency taxed by the HMRC to the point where they're saying to me, it's hardly worth me actually bothering to work because they're taking like 50% off me. And of course, yes, they might get it back down the road, but because they're new taxpayers, they've just gone, slammo, you'll get 50% tax on sort of, £25,000 a year. It's ridiculous.
It absolutely is. And, where's it going to go? It's going to go towards what? People who arrive on boats. Now that they've scrapped the 2-child benefit cap, it's going to go towards people who have had more children than they can actually afford. And all these so-called free breakfast clubs as well. We're paying for people who actually can afford to have breakfast clubs with their children. But they decided, we're just going to have this universal thing where we're just going to give it to everyone. We're going to say it's free, but in actual fact, it's coming from hardworking taxpayers. It's the state trying to do everything that, parents should be able to do. Parents should be working hard. People should be finding the time to give their children breakfast in the morning. It's just created quite a lazy society. It's like they don't want people to be able to work and freely think and do as themselves. They want to create this state where they all think, oh, we'll rely on the government to do everything, to walk our hands through life and, to raise their children as well. I remember reading that they had these things where they have classes in schools that will help to teach children how to brush their teeth. And I think to myself, that is something the parents should absolutely be doing. I mean, how can you not teach your children to brush your teeth?
Yeah, you shouldn't have children. If you can't teach your kids how to brush their teeth and you can't feed them in the morning, so they have to go and have a free breakfast paid for by the taxpayer. Sorry, I'd have the kids taken off them. But have a look at this, right? Because don't tell the BBC any of this, because the BBC were out and about yesterday in Swindon, in the West Country, a place I know well. It's where I got divorced, funnily enough. It's not a great town. But how about this, right? The BBC sent a reporter out to try and get somebody to have a go at the far right. And this is how it went.
You're a resident of Swindon. What do you think the next council should be focusing on?
Well, I think they should regenerate the town centre. I think it turned into like a bunch of flats area and there's pure immigrants around here. There's dangerous areas here for women and children. I don't think it's safe. I'm all right, I'm a bit of a boy. But locally, I think there's people around here what are pretty scared to come into the town centre now. I don't come in very often. I don't bank in town. I only come in for a Guinness. That's what I come in town centre for. And I've got a few mad people around here. But they need to regenerate the town centre and jobs. Bring the wages up. Do more for the working people, less for the people that are not working. I've got a friend who earns £1,500 and he's not over £1,500 and he's not working. I work and I get less than £1,900. I'm not happy.
Steve, one unhappy voter there.
Yeah, he couldn't get away quick enough, could he? He was like, oh, Christ. I went to see this black guy, and it turns out he's actually not the guy that I thought he was. I thought he was going to say that, Keir Starmer's brilliant, and thank God for, diversity and all that. And in fact, no, the guy's going, Swindon's actually quite dangerous because of all the migrants.
I know, it's absolutely brilliant. So I remember watching it yesterday, and I loved it. I completely agree with him, every single word. He said things that others would be scared to say. I mean, he talked about women and children feeling unsafe in the town centres. He talked about the 2-tier Britain where he's paying more than somebody who's not working. Right. And I loved it. They went up to him and thought, this guy's going to be a migrant-loving person who's going to love the welfare state. But, he decided we're going to say the complete opposite. He spoke the truth. They can't call him a racist because he's black as well. So I think they just had an earpiece saying, abort, please abort.
It's like reverse, Brilliant. Chris, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. We've got to run because we've got so much going on today. We've got so many people to talk to. Thank you so much. Chris Rhodes there talking to us about what is going wrong in this country. Howard Cox is here from Fair Fuel UK. Howard, very nice to see you.
Hello, Mike.
Incredible that piece of footage, wasn't it, from Swindon, where the BBC's going, oh, crikey, we didn't think that would happen, because you can hear the producer going, oh, look, there's a black guy over there, go and talk to him, because he'll be absolutely up Nigel Farage, and he'll hate, Advance, he'll hate Rupert Lowe, he'll hate everybody else, in the right, and it turns out actually he's probably going to vote for one of them.
Well, book and cover comes to mind, doesn't it?
It
classic
really does.
BBC, isn't it?
Classic BBC, but also the way that they just ran away 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
Absolutely brilliant. Listen, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So much to talk about. Obviously, fuel is a big thing at the moment. It seems to be creeping back up again. People are revolting in Ireland, which we've been covering quite a lot in the last few days. There's talk of maybe a farmers' strike or a farmers' roadblock protest of some kind, possibly coming in the next few days. You can maybe tell us about that. But how long before the ordinary people start to rise up and say, actually, do something about the bloody fuel price? You can reduce it. You can.
Well, 65 countries have done.
Yeah.
You look at something like Italy, they've actually knocked off something like 30% off of fuel duty. And you've got Spain, something like £5 billion package to help drivers.
Yeah.
That's just in Europe. And
Croatia, I think, have done it as well. Australia's done it.
Poland, Hungary.
Yeah.
You're seeing it, as you say, Australia. We're seeing it right across 65 countries I'm monitoring. And they're all doing something to reduce excise duties, even taking VAT off in some cases.
Right.
And the big thing for us, there are three things she should do. And, I'm pushing like mad, as you know. I've been doing this for 16 years, mate. We've been talking about it for a long time. One is to cut fuel duty now to alleviate the pressure. Yeah. But take the bloody VAT off the fuel duty itself.
Yes.
That would be 10p a litre.
Yes.
They could do that.
And 10p a litre would take it pretty much back down to where it was before all of this happened. I was looking this morning, I think it's 158 again in London for petrol. Diesel obviously a bit higher. But when it sort of began, we were at 149, 150-ish. Yeah. So 10p off would take it back to where it was.
Well, we're looking at petrol somewhere around about 160 at the moment, and we're looking at diesel about 195. Yeah. And guess what? On motorway service stations, you're seeing £2.30 for diesel.
Well, there's a lesson there, isn't there? Never ever fill up on a motorway service stop if you can avoid it.
But the commercial heartbeat of the economy is diesel.
Yeah.
We still tax it the same. Every other country taxes diesel less than petrol because they recognise diesel actually is the commercial heartbeat of every economy. Yeah. But what is she doing? She said in her financial statement about 5 or 6 weeks ago, we're going to look at it in about a month's time. Right. For God's sake, this is right in the middle of the Middle East crisis. She's doing nothing, and I just don't understand what's going through their heads because they would be loved if they did something like that now.
Yeah. I know. Well, this is the thing, right? You've got people saying, yes, reduce the cost. Yes, take the fuel duty down. Do whatever you can. Starmer got up in Parliament just the other day and said, we're freezing the fuel duty until September. Well, that doesn't mean anything. You might as well say, I'm going to keep robbing you, but I'll leave you with like 10p in your pocket, just in case you want to go and buy a packet of polos.
Well, there's a lot of Labour MPs now who've won a lot of rural seats since the last election, and they've got a lot of very angry drivers.
Yes.
I'm hearing from backbench MPs, and I'm still a secretary to an all-party parliamentary group. Yeah. They're saying that there's no way is it going to go up. Yeah. I can honestly say I'd be incredibly surprised they put fuel duty up.
And what do you make of the claims, which they deny, by the way, because I saw West Streeting was doing the rounds on Sunday, telling more lies about the NHS, more lies about how brilliant Starmer is, saying that basically, it's not right to say that we've got a sort of tax bonanza coming in, 3 billion quid's worth, because of the rise in fuel prices, so that, i.e. VAT,
from VAT,
and VAT and also the duty, I suppose, goes up. They're saying, no, because people are not putting so much fuel in their cars. So actually, it's offset by the fact that there's not so much consumer activity going on. What's your view of that?
Well, there's a load of old tosh. I was going to say a bit stronger, but
you can say that. Actually, if you want.
Of course, we're on independent.
Bollocks if you like, because we can say that here, because it is.
I know, Mike. It's been a long time since we've been able to let go. 7 weeks ago, this thing started, and motorists have paid an extra £1.3 billion at the pumps. 1.3, just take that point, 1.3 billion, of which 20% is VAT. Yeah. So you're looking at £200 million at least is coming to the coffers. So she could easily Get rid of that VAT, that 10p straight away now.
Yeah.
Why they're not doing it, I don't know. I just imagine Ed Miliband is actually behind it, making sure, because we're all people who drive fossil fuel cars are actually the pariahs, aren't we?
Oh yeah. Oh well, I mean, don't worry, because there's a new car here. Everybody can get. It's in the Daily Mail.
I saw that one.
This is very good. Easy. Saves you loads of money at the pumps because it's electric. Two-seater convertible Rolls Royce, first electric car they've made. £3.5 million.
And you can customise it, Mike.
Who's buying that?
You can have one, in your own colour and everything.
I mean, there was a time when I made that kind of money, but I'm afraid it's not going to happen this year. But, it's ludicrous, isn't it? The whole electric car revolution. And you've never seen anything like it. You probably heard them all getting very excited. Times Radio particularly, we're going, the first quarter of the year they've sold more electric cars than ever. Surely this means there's a ramping up of the electric car market. And it's like, no, the reason people are buying them is in bigger numbers. It's nothing to do with the war, because they ordered them before the war. It's because they got cheaper.
Exactly.
And I've always said, look, if you want me to buy an electric car, I'm not totally against it, but make it worth my while. Make it cheaper, make it a better deal. But it isn't, is it?
Well, the point is only 5% of the cars on the road are actually zero-emission vehicles, i.e. electric vehicles.
Yeah.
So there's 95% still driving petrol and diesel.
Yeah, right.
And that says it all, doesn't it? And don't forget the 2030 ban of preventing diesel and petrol new car sales is sitting there. Europe have actually moved there from 2035 to 2040.
Right.
And considering Starmer, I wrote to him back in December on this, considering he's so much in love with the EU, you'd think he'd actually move with them. But he's still not doing it. And I'm sorry to say that Ed Miliband is controlling what the government do regarding, certainly in terms of the environmental stuff and, the net zero bullshit.
Well, also in terms of the North Sea. We keep hearing from Starmer, we must be independent from, the Middle East. Well, start drilling the bloody North Sea then, you moron. Why wouldn't you do that? It's right there. It's like me saying, would you like a cup of coffee? I've got a coffee machine there. Or you can go to Buckinghamshire and get it and then bring it back. Nigel Farage was talking yesterday about the ridiculous cost. In fact, let's play that. Have we got that clip, Pooch? Sorry. The Nigel Farage clip on the gas that we get in from America. Check this out.
Most of the gas we currently import comes from Montana, where it's taken out of the ground, it's liquefied, it's shipped across the Atlantic, it's regassed, and then taken to where it's got to get to. Do you think all that process is free? These people haven't got a Scooby-Doo. They've no idea how the world works. Produce your own gas, produce your own oil, have cheaper prices, and yes, our aim in the years to come, when we get in power in Holyrood, is to have massive production of energy, to become a huge exporter, to have cheap prices, and to re-industrialise Scotland and bring people proper jobs.
So he's talking there about the gas that we get coming from Montana. I've been to Montana. It's a lovely part of the world. It's great for horse riding if you fancy that sort of thing. Go on one of those things a bit like, Yellowstone. But why are we getting gas from there? And as he says, how much do you think it costs to bring it here?
Especially on a diesel
on a diesel-powered
tanker.
Yeah. First, you've got to liquidize it, and then get it on a tanker, and then bring it here, and then unliquidize it and make it into gas again. It's ridiculous.
They're keeping it incredible frozen sort of temperatures as well to keep it in a liquid state.
Right.
I know that sort of thing as well. I mean, but my inbox is actually flooded with people, and you asked a question earlier on about what people consider when they're going to rise up.
Yeah.
We're not far away from this at the moment.
I don't think we are.
No.
Because I think they're watching what's happening in Ireland. They're seeing that even in Ireland, they're making some concessions, I believe. I know that the Gardaí there and the government are not exactly very popular.
Well, I've always been against direct action because you do alienate the very people you want to look after. Yeah. But if you remember, I think you and I remember the age in about 2000, the trucking blockade of London.
Yeah.
Well, I'm in negotiations with farmers and a lot of other groups at the moment in time, and in the next 2 or 3 weeks, we will be protesting. But we won't be doing blockades of refineries and forecourts, etc. It'll be mainly around Westminster, actually, about people. But at the moment, we've got 6,000 or 7,000 people willing to drive their cars in.
Right.
Obviously it'd be a ghost light. If that happens, I don't know. We're still working it. It'll be around about the 25th.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, you can't get anywhere in London because there's so many temporary traffic lights. So, there's already a blockade going on. I mean, I come from not far away from here, just about a mile and a half. 3 temporary traffic lights have to come through. And it's an absolute joke. But in terms of long-term kind of stability, if you like, in the oil market and in fuel futures, what is the future, do you think? Are companies worried in this country that there won't be enough fuel if there is a blockade, if it is, can we be less reliant on the Middle East, I suppose is my question.
You can argue 30% comes through the Hormuz and the Red Sea area, that sort of thing, which affects the West. But we still got 70%. Fuel supply is okay. Yeah. I don't think we should panic on that point of view. But the issue at the moment in time is only 10 days ago we had nearly $120 per barrel. It's now 95, 96 today. That's come down a massive amount. Yeah. So why hasn't the pumps come down? They went up like a rocket and down like we've talked about this for years.
I mean, when I was in Sussex at the weekend, it was down there. It was 156. Yeah. 158 in London, but then it came back up again. Yeah. Because there was no deal.
Well, the big worry is they're putting it up on existing stocks already paid for. Yeah. Most of my inbox is full of people saying my garage has put it up twice today and they have not had a delivery. Right. Now, how opportunistic is that?
And of course, again, you had Starmer saying we will not allow, price gouging. Well, really? Sorry. Well, it's happening.
And it's not, you shouldn't blame the retailers too much. It's further up the fuel supply chain. The wholesalers do it. Yeah. They order them and they have very tight contracts, Mike, whereby they, it's very, very they have constricted approach. They can't do anything about it. If they actually decide personally to put the thing down, they lose their contract. Yeah. And so they can't do that sort of thing.
Right. And again, the biggest, monopoly on price is the government. Yeah. More than 50%. 55% is going into their coffers. And,
we're still the highest tax drivers in the world. Yeah. Even after 16 years, I've kept it frozen.
We're the highest taxed on everything. We're the highest beer tax in the world. You go to Germany, you can buy a pint of beer for approximately a tenth of what you pay for it here, because it's all tax. Petrol, the same. Cigarettes, the same. It's ridiculous. Totally mad. Anyway, listen, good to see you, Howard. Thank you. Thank you very much for popping in. We've got lots and lots to do. Somebody just sent me a message saying, why has your ticker changed colour? Talk about pedant of the day. Yeah, it used to be red, now it's blue. Sorry, gag me with a spoon, as they say. I mean, what are you going to do? It's fantastic, isn't it? Maybe we should change the colour of the Mike Graham Show sign just to upset them even more. I've got the thing here, haven't I? Where have I got it? It's actually gone. Where's the old, where's the remote that we used to have? I'm not saying we need to change the colour, but we could. It's a bit of fun, isn't it? Because it shows that I am the all-powerful Wizard of Oz, right? How about that? Look at that. Oh, look. Ooh. Ooh. Oh, look, purple. Should we get a sort of reformy colour? Because we've got... Is that turquoise enough for you? Sarah Poachin's here. Is that green?
Oh no, let Sarah do it.
Yeah, we can't have green. Oh, there you go. How about that? Sarah can do it. Sarah can do it. Yeah, she can prepare. Yeah, she can prepare it. Yeah, because also women are much better at that sort of thing. You've just turned it off. Brilliant. Yeah, you can't get it back on again. Anyway, Howard Cox, thank you very much. Fairfield UK. Somehow don't tell me we fused it again. Oh Christ. Anyway, listen, we've got lots to do and we've got lots of messages coming in as well. I prefer the blue, says Tony. Yeah, well, unfortunately, Pooch may have killed the whole thing. Mike Graham's show sign should be a different colour for each show. Blue for breakfast, red for plonk, and green for plank. Well, you could do it that way. How about just off? The last time this happened, we had to take it down and send it back for 2 weeks. We can't have that. See, this is why we didn't do it. Yeah. What's happened?
There you go.
Oh, there we are. And it's come back. Well done. Excellent. Is that turquoise enough for you? She's not happy. She's not happy. Well, she is. I mean, she's a woman. Obviously she's not happy. Well, you fix it then. Go on. See if you can fix it. Sarah Poachin's going to join us very shortly. Why don't we play? Should we play another one of these? Should we play? I'll tell you what. In reference to reform, since they're about to come on, let's play Robert Jenrick on immigration policy. How about that?
To that inquiry.
Yes, absolutely. Look, I think that is an incredibly important thing that the next government has to do, and only reform will deliver it. I resigned from the last Conservative government because I was so appalled by what I'd seen when I entered the Home Office. The decisions that Boris Johnson, Priti Patel and the ministers at the time took were the worst decisions I think any ministers have taken in my lifetime. They brought millions of people into the country. They have changed our country in ways which may be very difficult to reverse, and they'll cost £622 billion. That's 20 grand for every household in the country.
You said you were part of that government and you resigned from that government. So was Suella Braverman, seeing some of the highest figures when she was Home Secretary and when you were both in government. So how can people trust you that come the next reform government, things are going to be different?
That's the way the system works. You take action and then it begins to have an effect. What Suella did, and I saw her up close, is spent a year trying to persuade Rishi Sunak and the Tories to do something about this, banging her head against a brick wall. I literally went into Rishi Sunak's office in Downing Street and said, I will resign unless you bring the Boris wave to an end. And he finally agreed to the measures, which did start to have effect. And when I felt he wasn't doing enough on illegal migration, a couple of days later, I chose to resign, go onto the back benches, start voting against the Tory government in order to push this agenda forward. So I have no trust, zero trust in the Conservative Party to get a grip on immigration. That is one of the reasons why I chose to leave, to join Reform, because I believe Nigel Farage is the only man who has got the conviction and the backbone that is necessary to fix this problem once and for all. And yes, those people who were responsible for these mistakes, they should be hauled before a public inquiry. I mean, frankly, in a different era, some of them will be in the Tower of London now because they made such terrible mistakes that are going to hurt this country for generations to come.
I mean, there's Robert Jenrick talking about how people should be sent to the Tower of London for some of the terrible decisions they've made. Of course, as we were just talking about, you can't get into the Tower of London now for people on universal credit who are all going in for about £1 a time. Yeah, it's ridiculous. I can't believe that. Sarah Pochin's here. Very good morning to you, Sarah.
Good morning, mate.
MP, of course, for Runcorn and Helsby. Haven't seen you for a while, so thank you so much for coming in.
It's a pleasure.
So much to talk about today. I mean, even just starting with that universal credit story, because I don't know what I was doing last week, but I sort of must have missed it. That you can now. I mean, it's one thing to give people benefits for being unemployed and to try and encourage them back. But you're never going to encourage them back to the workplace if basically every single thing that they can do is cheaper if they're not actually working.
I think a family of four, it costs a normal, hard-working family of four over £100 to get into the Tower of London. Yeah. If you're on benefits, it's £4.
It's unbelievable.
Every single way we turn at the moment in this country, the government is paying people not to work.
Well, look at this on the front page of The Sun today, right? 1.5 million extra people on welfare since Labour got in. 1.5 million universal credit claims have been added to the Exchequer since they got in July of 24. 63,000 last month alone.
I know. And do you know now that to earn, you have to earn £71,000 as a two-parent, three-children family. Yeah. You have to earn £71,000 to get the same amount as you get on benefits. Now the two-child benefit cap's been lifted. Yeah. £71,000, Mike.
So much money.
I mean, what message does that give out to hard-working people? In my constituency of Runcorn and Helsby, that sort of money is a lot of money.
Most people are not making that in Runcorn and Helsby, or indeed in the rest of the country.
So why go to work?
Exactly. Because you've got to surely incentivise them in order to do that. And if they're creating this kind of two-tier economy where everything's cheaper if you just put your hand up and go, sorry, I'm on benefits. You know, it's a bit like when I used to be a student and you go, oh, students get this or OAPs get that. Fair enough. But not people who are unemployed, surely to God.
But not only that, unless we tackle this benefits bill, we've heard today, haven't we, in the papers, that the government is not increasing the defence budget as much
Rachel
as it
says
should.
We haven't got any money.
Yeah, so they're increasing it by £2.5 billion only. Our defence budget is £60 billion.
Right.
You know, but our benefits bill, you know, is spiralling out of control.
Right.
Why are we not tackling that and redirecting the money into areas like defence, which we know, we've seen how horribly exposed we are now with this Iranian situation. It's really exposed how utterly defenceless we are as a nation.
We are defenceless, and even people who you might not have thought previously that you would agree with, like Lord Robertson, but who was a substantial character in the Blair government. He was a NATO commander, you know, he was in charge of defence for years and years and years. Even he's saying that this is inadequate, it's absolutely disgusting and disgraceful that we have a Prime Minister who just doesn't know how to defend the country.
Well, we've got a warship that's limping its
where
way
is HMS
somewhere.
Dragon?
Exactly, somewhere.
I mean, you know.
And actually Trump is saying, you know, possibly rightly, I don't know, that we should be helping with the sort of like policing of the Strait of Hormuz at the moment.
Right.
How could we?
Yeah.
We literally, we can't even get one ship
We did
there.
a poll the other day about, you know, how exactly were we supposed to, you know, when he announced that, we're not going to take part in the blockade of the Straits of Hormuz. Well, how would you do it anyway?
Anyway, even Luxembourg got a ship there, didn't they? And they're landlocked.
Our viewers actually voted David Lammy as the best way to blockade the Straits of Hormuz. You just bob him in the sea there and you can't get round him, you know, because he's that big.
But you know what? I couldn't possibly comment. But you know what the serious point to this is as well, is yesterday I had a meeting with the fuels industry people. people,
Right.
UK. And I have a refinery in my constituency still, Esar. We only have 4 refineries left in this country.
Yes.
I mean, my very first job out of university was working for Shell.
Was it?
So, yeah.
Because Grangemouth was a massive refinery, which they've now killed off,
that's
basically,
gone,
haven't they?
yeah. And Shell had Stanley Refinery, of course.
Yeah.
But that's now Esar in my constituency,
Right.
which is lovely. It's like I've like come full circle round.
Right.
But the point is I was having a meeting yesterday with other MPs who have the refineries in their constituencies. And the point is this government will not support those refineries with it's actually quite a technical point, but it's a carbon tax issue because of this whole politicisation now, the net zero agenda that is Ed Miliband. But we are in danger of losing even the 4 refineries we have left, which leaves us totally unable to process our own energy. And as you know, as soon as reform get in, and we will get in, we will open the taps in the North Sea. We will start drilling for gas. We have to make sure we are self-sufficient.
Yes.
In
we
energy.
played a clip just before you came on when Howard Cox was here from Fairfield UK of Nigel Farage talking yesterday about the gas that we import from Montana.
Crazy, isn't it?
And he's like, it doesn't come here for free. They have to de-liquidize it. They have to ship it on a diesel-powered boat. And then they have to energise it and make it into gas again when it gets here. It's completely mad.
We're all sitting
Bonkers.
and standing on gas. You know, we have more than enough gas underneath our feet.
Yeah.
We have to start drilling for gas. We have to. I mean, I would argue that should we really be completely decommissioning our coal, our quarries, our coal mining is what I'm trying to say, because maybe mothball them, but we just don't know. We shouldn't be decommissioning
Well, we shouldn't be
anything
decommissioning.
at the moment.
Peter
We're
Hitchens
so exposed.
and I used to talk about this, and he said, not only did they close down the coal mines, but they cemented the shafts so that you couldn't ever possibly go back in.
We shouldn't be doing that.
Which is totally and utterly kind of vandalising in a way.
Put it to one side for now, if we have to. But, we are so exposed. As I said, we're exposed from a defence point of view. We're exposed from an energy point of view. And yes, look at what the government's doing with the forecourts now. There's no reflection, is there, as the markets are moving up and down. And in Parliament, they say, you don't understand. When we call for a cap, for example, on what's happening on the forecourts. You don't understand. It's an international price. That's absolute nonsense.
Rubbish. Yeah.
The government.
But that's a Miliband. That's a Miliband.
It's gaslighting the public.
Yeah,
once
it is.
Again.
Miliband constantly says whenever he's interviewed, and he hasn't been interviewed recently. I noticed with some interest because you never get him off the TV.
Quiet, isn't
He's
he?
gone very quiet.
Yeah.
But one of the things he always says is, the international gas price is set by the international market.
Yeah.
We have no control over it.
That's rubbish.
That's absolute cobblers because in that case, why is it cheaper in every other country in the world apart from in Britain?
Yeah, but every single wind turbine that Ed Miliband puts up is more cost on our heating bills, on our fuel bills at home. So it doesn't matter whether you're talking about the forecourts, whether you're talking about our energy bills at home, whether you're talking about the crippling energy bills for businesses. It's one of the biggest complaints I get from my businesses that I look after.
Particularly hauliers, right?
Massive, massive. But also, as I said, coming back to the refineries, their energy costs off the scale. They cannot compete anymore. We cannot lose any more industry in this country.
No, it is extraordinary. Let's move on to Bridget Phillipson, who's been making great hay this week about, free breakfast clubs. And I keep saying, well, it's not free, actually, is it? Because actually we're paying
for it.
And lots of people actually are not getting it for free. You're only getting it for free, once again, if you're on universal credit.
Exactly.
But she's also been involved in a year on from the famous Supreme Court ruling about what is a woman.
Yes.
And she's kind of dragging her heels a bit on this, isn't she?
This is a disgrace. So I think it's actually on Thursday, tomorrow, that it's exactly a year from when the Supreme Court ruled on biological sex.
Yeah.
A woman is a woman and a man is a man.
Yes.
Oh, happy days.
Right.
Doesn't
seem difficult,
it
does it?
doesn't seem difficult. So that was a year ago, and the guidance that should have come out by now from the Equalities and Human Rights Commission has still not been issued by the government. That is guidance on how businesses or public places should readapt, change once again their toilets, for example, their changing areas in leisure centres to be safe spaces for women, once again, women and girls. But she's not issued that guidance.
Right.
A year on, we are still in limbo about it, and there's still not safe spaces for women. And it doesn't.
Do you think that's because she's frightened of the sort of ideological
lobby.
base?
She's frightened of the trans lobby.
I mean, there's a piece on the front page of the Times today here where it says Bridget Phillipson told the equality regulators it must tone down its guidance on single-sex spaces and make it more inclusive. What does that even mean?
So she's trying to appease the trans lobby all the time, and this is always puts the safety of women and girls at risk.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter whether we're talking about, like I say, toilets in schools even.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an area that really upsets me when you've got teenage girls who can't potentially go to the toilet without being sure, a gang of boys isn't coming.
Right.
What's going on?
I know.
There has to be...
Again, it seems straightforward enough, doesn't it?
Prisons. I mean, actually, like it or not, but the trans, I don't know whether you call them trans women or trans men, but women that are wanting to be men.
Yes.
No.
Men that want to be women.
Men that want to be women.
Yes.
They are still being housed in
I saw a
women's
picture
prisons
of a guy at the
and
weekend.
sexually assaulting prisoners.
I saw a picture of a guy at the weekend who was imprisoned for sexual violence against his partner, who happened to be a woman.
Yeah.
Right? But he's now, because he claims that he is a woman, but he looks like a man, is in a women's prison.
In a women's prison.
And is freely mixing.
Yeah.
And this is a violent offender who has got a problem with women.
But I think there were 257 sexual assaults on women prisoners last year by trans... Do you call them trans women or trans
women?
I even get confused.
I know, it's confusing, isn't it?
It's designed to confuse us. But the point is, even discussing this puts us at risk of being accused of being, transphobic. We're just trying to protect. I am just trying to speak out for the safety of women. Well, funnily enough,
I mean, this may come as a great surprise to lots of people, but I go to a gym in just around the back of Selfridges, right? And they've had an issue because a trans woman wanted to come into the gym. And it's quite, you have to pay quite a lot of money to be there.
Yeah.
But this character wanted to be in the women's changing room, and all the women said, "No, we don't want that."
No.
So now he's had to be moved into the men's changing room because they don't have a different space.
Yeah.
And the only alternative they say is, well, either that or you go into the disabled toilet and you get changed. But it's pretty straightforward to me.
Why won't she come out and issue this guidance a year on?
Right.
What was the point of the Supreme Court looking at it, ruling in the way they did, and then she won't enact the guidance?
And you also know that there are lots of places like the NHS, for example, where they're not enacting the law either.
No.
And they're also kind of sort of ignoring it.
100%.
And basically saying, well,
you've got vulnerable patients, vulnerable female patients who potentially, could be using a bathroom or be on a ward still with men or with trans women, trans men. I still can't get that in my head. Maybe it's just too early in the morning.
I know. I mean, I think the other thing that I think we should all take account of is the fact that it's a very, and yes, of course, minorities need to be respected and all that, but it's a very small number of people that you're talking about.
Yeah.
For the nation's government to be so frightened of them, it seems ridiculous.
But the trans lobbyists are very, very powerful. Look at how frightened Wes Streeting is of upsetting them.
Yeah.
So I've spoken a lot about the puberty blocking my campaign there, and we have managed to cancel that. But that took way too long. It should never have come up. But people like Wes Streeting, Bridget Phillipson, they're very, very frightened of this trans lobby lot.
Right.
And do you know these trans lobbyists have issued, there's a group called Bashback, B-A-S-H, Bashback.
Right.
And they've issued a poster online, and it's a balaclavaed man with a hammer and instructions to form local campaign groups and attack MPs with violence until we agree. Any MP like myself who speaks on these issues, attack them with violence until we acquiesce and agree with them.
But how is that not incitement to violence?
It is. As a magistrate, I know that's incitement to violence.
Yeah.
It's literally written in black and white, the instructions on what to do with people like me. Listen, I'm not anti-trans. I'm just saying, can we apply some common sense and protect women? Because we know factually that these men who are saying they're women will sexually assault women. We know that.
Yeah.
So therefore,
don't
women
put them in a place where
protected.
they can do it.
Yeah. I'm not anti-trans. Just do it and get on with it if that's what you want to do. But now this is incitement to be violent against people like myself.
Yeah, and that is
it's
outrageous,
really frightening,
isn't it? Really is frightening.
And the government's doing nothing about it.
Government is doing absolutely nothing at all. Let's talk a bit about the upcoming election, because we are not guided by Ofcom, right? So you can rant on and on about how well you're going to do without fear or favour, and I don't even have to balance it. So that's the great thing about being independent and having the Mike Graham show where we are. So the word on the street is that Reform are going to do very well. And possibly a couple of thousand seats won. Labour are going to get absolutely stuffed, which I'm looking forward to. We can't decide whether on the Friday, the 8th, because we're doing a live show on the 6th, which is the night before. The 7th, obviously, again, we don't have to worry about purdah or telling people which way to vote. But we're thinking either Thursday or Friday, we're going to, get a banner, some balloons. Keir Starmer's been completely and utterly routed, because he will be, won't he? There's nothing else for it.
You can detect in Parliament now quite an amount of unease. And it's getting quite febrile as the election comes closer, May the 7th comes closer. And there's definitely a feeling, I think, on the Labour benches of just how badly they're going to do.
Right.
Of course, we hope and we believe that we will do well. We've already got last time round. In fact, it's nearly a year since the last set of elections when I was actually elected in that by-election, when we got, I think, nearly 900 councillors. We are hoping for at least another 2,000 more this time, which would be excellent. We're fielding, I think, 99% of seats. So if you want to vote Reform, you can vote Reform.
Right.
And I'm living proof of if you vote Reform, you get Reform.
Absolutely.
Even if it was 6 votes.
But I mean, that's why exactly it's more important than ever, isn't it? If 6 votes count. If 6 people hadn't come out to vote, you wouldn't be sitting here.
So I'm busy going around the country telling people that every vote counts, and I am literally the living proof of that.
The question, of course, will be, because there are reform enemies out there. There are people who are constantly trying to go, oh, but hang on a second, pick. Oh, you must have peaked, and maybe the polls are not quite as good as they were. Blah de blah. I mean, is there a kind of figure in mind at Reform in terms of whether it's a good night or a bad night? Because if you don't get perhaps as well as many votes as you're hoping to get, there will be people out there who say, nah, they're not really quite as powerful as they were. Is there a number, or do you not work like that?
I don't think there's a number. I think it's, we feel very much that we are, the hope of the country is on our shoulders. And everyone I talk to on the doorstep, in all different areas of the country, I've been to Wales, I've been to Scotland, obviously I've done the Northwest, and, campaigning everywhere. And I just come away at the end of every day feeling a huge sense of responsibility, because the hope of the nation is undoubtedly on the shoulders of Reform, because everybody is so fed up with not only this current government and the utter mess they're making of everything, but also the last government. So the whole centrist party
well, it's not going to be a great night
gone.
for the Tories, is it? I mean, they're
looking at being
wiped out as well.
It's going to be a disaster for Labour. And what's so interesting about being involved in politics at this moment in time is that I think it is historical. We are going to see for the first time, there's those 2 main parties who have basically held the reins for 200 years, or Labour 100, Tories 200, whatever. But the point is suddenly you have got the smaller parties that are populist parties like Reform, and they're called populist for a reason. People use that in a critical way.
I know.
But
I've never understood
actually
that.
populist because it's popular.
Because it's popular, I know.
People.
Why is that a bad thing? I mean, look at the front page of the Telegraph today. Labour set to lose control in Wales. First major local election poll predicts a devastating loss for Starmer across Britain, but it would also mean that Plaid Cymru end up probably running Wales. Is that a disappointment for you guys, or because Reform? I'm thinking Reform coming second is a pretty good result for Reform, isn't it?
It's an excellent result, and of course there are areas of Wales which I think we will do well in.
Right.
But the thing with Plaid is what they're doing at the moment is pushing out this message that Reform will privatise the NHS.
Right.
Absolute nonsense, a complete lie. But they're pushing out, and in North Wales in particular, 25% of the population work for the NHS. So what Plaid are doing is telling all of those people they're going to lose their jobs if they vote Reform. So unfortunately, you have to rely a little bit on the public reading the papers. Well, actually, that's not necessarily a great thing, is it? Because the papers aren't particularly pro-Reform either.
No.
But they have to listen to what we're saying, because if you listen to that sort of rhetoric, it's just lies. And interestingly, I did a rally the other day in a sticky floor nightclub, the sort of place that you and I probably went when we were in our 20s. But and do you know what? I love that grassroots campaigning. And a couple of Labour people came up to me at the end separately, and they said, "We thought you were a one-trick pony in terms of your story: immigration." I spoke for 40 minutes about Reform's policies, and they said, we're converted.
Wow.
We've never heard anything like it. We're 100% converted. That is so satisfying.
Well, everybody knows that there's a problem in this country, and the problem is that we're not represented by the government in any way, shape or form. I don't think there is any part of this country that the government's running which works. Every single department is failing.
Police,
The
NHS,
police,
education.
NHS,
It doesn't matter what you talk about. Defence. It's all failed.
Right.
And that's not just happened in the last 18 months. This government is accelerating it, particularly the energy crisis. But it's happened over the entire reign of the Tories and Labour before that. So the centrist parties have failed the country, and everybody knows that. And that's why they are finished. And these local elections will reflect that. I mean, Scotland, I don't think there's going to be a Labour seat left in Scotland. You know, it will go completely SNP, which, you know, I have my views about. But there's no Labour left in Scotland. So, you know, Wales is going to be a similar story. So the whole political landscape is moving in momentous historical change.
And I think a lot of it is to do with the fact that people are just not any longer willing to give their votes to people who they don't think really represent them and who sort of take them for granted in a way.
That is exactly what's happened in places like Runcorn. So they've relied on that safe Labour vote. The politicians there have never been visible. What I get on the doorstep, well, Sunday morning I was out campaigning, you know, and I get, oh my goodness, our MP is knocking on our door. We've never seen an MP out and about. One of the biggest problems I have in the constituency is housing. And we read today, don't we, the government congratulating itself that it's moved 10,000 illegal asylum seekers out of hotels. But where have they put them? Into houses. Into houses in the community, bumping off people like my residents from housing lists and prioritising illegal asylum seekers ahead of people like I have in Runcorn. 3,800 people in Holton are on housing waiting lists, and yet we're housing 600 illegal asylum seekers.
And this is a big reform campaign at the moment, isn't it? The whole Boris Wave scenario.
So people feel so betrayed.
They do, and also the fact that I think it was this week that we learned that it's costing something like 50,000 quid per asylum seeker, failed asylum seeker, to send them back on the so-called one in, one out.
Why wouldn't you just buy an EasyJet ticket, you know, over to France for £30? And I was reading that they need 2 officials per migrant in case they kick off. Just put an armed guard on the plane. You know what? Just don't mess around.
Or just put them in handcuffs.
Exactly. And put them, let them get off in Calais
they do that
or
thing in America,
you know,
where they give them an orange jumpsuit, you know, shackle their ankles, shackle their hands as well behind their back. Sit them down, you know, I'm sorry, you can't have any peanuts or an orange juice. We'll let you off when you get to the other end.
But do you know what? I mean, exactly. Escort them on, escort them off. What is this nonsense? £48,000 per individual to get a flight over there.
You get a private jet for 20. Honestly. I mean, because I looked into it at one point. You know, when I was rich, I was going to get a private jet to France and go for my birthday with the kids. We didn't do it in the end. But it's twice the price of a private jet.
But a serious note is this is utter waste. And this is what reform will come in and stop the waste and stop the nonsense. You know, and I'm sorry, it sounds extreme, but, you know, at the end of the day, yes, if someone's kicking off on a flight, handcuff them, escort them on with...
Because guess what? If you were an ordinary sort of civilian and you got drunk and you started kicking off, they would handcuff you, because that's what they do.
100%.
And no question at all.
It's absolute nonsense, and it all comes back to this whole industry of human rights, doesn't it?
It does.
This absolute nonsense.
But isn't it shocking, though, and I know Nigel's very hot on this, the Chagos Islands, we were absolutely shocked, and we did it on Monday, actually, on the show, where they managed to get some customs officials, border force and police, British police, onto a boat in the South Pacific, right, off the coast of Diego Garcia, to investigate whether or not supplies being given to people living in pretty poor conditions should be taken off them. Absolutely shocking. And people were saying to me, they can't even board a vessel in the channel if it's a Russian vessel, which they said they were going to sort out. They can't board a dinghy and figure out whether or not the people coming in are criminals.
But they can board get over to Chagos.
In the Chagos Islands and stop them having water purifiers and stop them having mosquito nets and stop them having, you know, bedding. It's ridiculous.
It's shocking behaviour, and actually the channel is such a key issue at the moment. We know we've got Russian subs, don't we, down there?
Absolutely.
And I would say get the Navy in the channel, but we haven't got a Navy. We need to get the border force in the channel to turn the boats back. You know, what is? There's no problem here. It's about the will of the government to do it. That's all it is, Mike. And successive governments have not had the will to do it. And I tell you what, if people vote for the Green Party, the borders are open.
Let's talk about the Green Party.
The borders are open. They'll all be coming in under the Greens.
Because under the Greens as well, that's even more bad news for Labour, isn't it? Because they're not They're not as worried now about reform as they were. They're now worried about the Greens, who are literally ripping them apart. I don't understand how anybody in their right mind who's not on drugs would vote for these people.
Well, of course, and drugs is one of their key policies. Let's legalise heroin on the streets.
Right.
I mean, I work closely with Cheshire Police to combat the drug running, the county lines, etc. I talk to them all the time. They cannot believe their ears when they listen to policies like let's legalise drugs, right up to Class A drugs.
Right.
It's such a massive problem, particularly in deprived areas, as you know. And they work so hard to combat it. And then potentially you've got these politicians coming in. So they're going to legalise drugs.
I know.
But not only that, they're going to
they want to legalise brothels. They want to do away with prisons, apparently, as well, because they don't work.
I haven't heard that.
Yeah, there's a woman in Scotland, green woman in Scotland, who reckons that, prisons don't work, just do away with them.
But in terms of, that's frightening again. As a magistrate of 20s, I cannot believe what I'm hearing. The prison, the whole situation in the prison is worrying as it is. Because again, coming back to the safety of women, they're letting prisoners out early to reoffend. And if those prisoners are domestic violence offenders, then they will go on eventually to kill. We know that.
They've released people who were in prison for domestic violence without telling the people who were their victims.
Absolutely
incredible.
Frightening stuff.
We've got a clip, haven't we, of that guy in Swindon, the Green Party candidate. Should we play that? Yeah, this guy's great. Yeah, check this guy out.
He's good.
Hi, I'm Brooke Binnett, one of the Green Party council candidates for Priory Vale. I've been living in Swindon now for 10 years, and I'm looking to stand at Swindon Borough Council and Hayden Wick Parish Council. I'm a volunteer and community organiser. I care about my local community, and I think that'll make me a great councillor. I've previously worked on IT systems, which has given me people and project skills which I can bring to Swindon Borough Council. So vote for me on the 7th of May for a cleaner, fairer Swindon.
See, if they had any real, nous about marketing, they could go, it's Brooke Linnett, innit? Yeah. Right? That would be my slogan. It's Brooke Linnett, innit? He's in a dress.
Is that what you want to see from your politicians, really?
Not really.
And what's so frightening is that potentially those sort of people will get voted in.
I know.
Because of listening to lies, in the media about reform. It's really frightening.
I know.
We are one election away from losing control of this country, Mike.
I know. It's shocking.
To people like that.
But thank goodness the Labour Party have got their handle on reality, because we've got this woman called Samantha Niblett, another great name, right?
Niblett. You can't make it up, can you?
I think it's a brand of vibrator, isn't it? Samantha Niblett.
I couldn't possibly comment.
No, obviously not. But apparently she wants to also have a summer of sex, and she wants to introduce sex toys into Parliament. I mean, unfortunately for her, she doesn't realise there's a recess during the summer, and there actually nobody's in Parliament. So if you're in there on your own with a sex toy, I'm sorry, it's going to look a bit out of place. But I mean, really?
But Mike,
honestly?
Listen, this is an elected official. What is happening to the standard of our politicians these days? I mean, the fact that this is even a story is an embarrassment.
It is.
We have so many issues in this country to sort out, and we really have an elected official, an elected member of Parliament, talking about this nonsense. I actually can't believe it. I'll tell you what.
She's dressing it up as kind of, how to fight pornography and misogyny. It's nothing like that.
It's nonsense.
It's really not, is it?
She's just wanting to get her name in the paper. I'd never even heard of her, but we won't forget her name now, will we? Niblett, that wants to show us her sex toys. I mean, I'm shocked. I think I'd rather talk about tax, to be honest.
I know.
as an elected
tax,
official, anyway.
Well, in fact, I'm surprised that they haven't figured out a way of taxing sex. Actually,
well,
they tax everything else.
It'll be coming along soon, I'm
no
sure.
Doubt.
Yeah, there'll be VAT on sex toys.
Unbelievable. Sarah, great to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Sarah Pochin from Runcorn and Helsby, of course, the Reform MP. Big news coming up on the 7th of May. It is probably going to be a Reform wipeout for everybody. The Greens will probably do quite well as well, and then maybe that bloke in a dress in Swindon will win. Who knows? In it. You've got to be in it to win it, as they say. Coming up, I'm delighted to say Liz Truss is here, the former Prime Minister of this great country of ours. We'll be asking her what's coming up at the big CPAC convention, which is a new thing coming over from America, but starting up in Britain in the next few. And we've actually got an offer for all of you lucky people out there. You can get a special deal on going to the CPAC conference with us, which we'll tell you all about coming up very shortly. Right now, though, should we get some news with Edward Hughes? Let's do it.
Good morning, it's me, Edward Hughes, with your news. Great, the IMF just crowned us the G7's biggest economic loser, slashing growth forecasts thanks to the Iran war sending petrol prices through the roof. Well done, Richard III. Meanwhile, former NATO boss Lord Robertson has pointed out that our national security is in peril because the government's been too busy expanding the welfare budget to buy any actual tanks. And after yesterday's cheeky burst of warm weather, normal service has resumed, grey skies, and patchy rain are back to remind us it's still April. Are you going to the live show on May 6th? MG, Lewis MacLeod, Right Said Fred, Carol Decker, and so many friends of the show. I'll be there with Fiona and we cannot wait. Even Donald MacLeod will make an appearance. Please remember to like and subscribe. Laters Tigers.
Thank you, Edward. Edward Hughes there with the news. And, there is an awful lot of news. I mean, most of the front pages there are a little bit different. We cannot defend welfare Britain is the front page of the Daily Mail. That's from Lord Robertson, who used to be, of course, in charge of NATO, used to be Defence Secretary of State under Tony Blair's government. Starmer's own advisors have turned on him, saying that he hasn't got a clue. Labour set to lose control in Wales, front page of the Telegraph. Rachel Reeves dashes hopes of spending more money on defence because apparently there isn't any money left. So much going on. And of course, one of the big stories, as far as I'm concerned anyway, 1.5 million new benefit scroungers have been given universal credit since the Labour government got in July of 2024. So, the country's in a hell of a mess, hell of a state. It makes you want to harker back to the time when we were in a much better place. When Liz Truss was Prime Minister, quite frankly. And here she is. Liz, very good morning to you.
Good to be on the show.
Good to see you. I mean, you must sit there every morning looking at the disaster of this economy, looking at the terrible stewardship that this government is sort of handing us every single day, and think, where did it all go wrong? How on earth are you not still in charge, given what they're doing?
Well, it's incredibly depressing, but I think we have to recognise that this has been going on for quite a long time. See, we are in the end period, I think, of the Blair era.
Yeah.
And a lot of the Blair decisions, making the Bank of England unaccountable, the Human Rights Act, expanding the welfare state, tax credits, they've all got worse and worse and worse. And the story of the Conservative government is we didn't reverse that stuff. I tried to reverse some of it and got promptly booted out of office.
Yes.
But we're now on a trajectory off the cliff. But it started a long time ago. This stagnation, it's been going on for 30 years. Britain's economy has not really been growing. Our manufacturing industry has been decimated thanks to net zero. Immigration has been a problem right since the Blair era.
Do you think that we moved away from manufacturing, wrongly, and moved away, indeed, in some ways, from even defence procurement? Because all we became was a sort of financial services hub, didn't we? And everybody used to say, well, don't worry, the economy is always going to be absolutely golden in Britain because we are the financial services capital of the world, which we sort of are still. But when we see things like Goldman Sachs making 5.4 billion in the first quarter of this year, when you see, I think JP Morgan have come out and made 15 billion because they love an unstable market and they're making an absolute fortune. And I can't believe, I was listening to Times Radio this morning and these kind of idiotic presenters going, oh, how is it possible?
I don't know why you were listening to that, Mike.
Well,
that's a recipe for
well, I can't listen to
a
talk,
bad morning.
obviously. Radio 5 Live, forget it.
You can listen to the Liz Truss Show podcast.
I could put that on, actually,
exactly.
I'll try and figure it out on my phone. A good idea, because it's only about a 15-minute journey. So, but these people are going, well, how is it that all these big financial companies are making money when we're all, paying more for everything? It's like, do you not even understand basic economics? Of course they're making money. But that doesn't really benefit us, does it?
So I think you're right that the economy became financialised and we lost our manufacturing base. And that started right after the Second World War. And we never really recovered after Attlee and all the nationalisation and the decimation of our economy. And it's been made even worse by net zero, which has made energy costs so expensive that it's pretty much impossible to run a steel factory or a car factory in this country. And I think after 2008, we essentially socialised the losses those banks had made. So the banks got away pretty much scot-free with their calamitous policies. That ruined the economy.
So I don't think we should have bailed them out. I assume
no, we shouldn't have done.
Think the
we
same
shouldn't
thing.
have done.
Yeah.
No.
And that would have had what effect if, say, for example, you reinvent the wheel, if you like, and you say, right, had we not done that, had that not happened in 2008?
Well, they should have been forced to take the losses.
Right.
They
But
should have
would ordinary
they should have
people
been held accountable.
Yes.
Nobody was held accountable for their mistakes. They were bailed out.
Right.
And I think that what's happened is the city has become micro-regulated very heavily.
Yes.
And it's become HRified. But at the same time, the big risks are still being taken, and there's no knowing whether exactly the same thing will happen again.
No, right.
And
So,
I
say
think
for
that's
example, had we not bailed them out, had we let them go to the wall, if you had an account with, say, NatWest or Bank of Scotland or whatever, HBOS...
Well, this goes to protecting the consumer.
No, sure, but what I'm saying is that how badly would the consumer have suffered if the government hadn't bailed them out? Would that have ruined people's lives?
I'm not saying there should have been no government intervention at the time, but what I'm saying is the people who made the mistakes should have been held to account, and they weren't.
Right.
And I certainly think the system should be designed now so there aren't going to be future bailouts.
Yeah. I mean, people that I talk to...
That has not happened.
People that I talk to in the financial business say that it's much more regulated now than it ever was, in the sense that, in the 80s and 90s, when you could just sort of go rogue on the markets and come in with a massive hangover, having been out all night, and just start, buying stuff and moving markets and selling it and piking people and doing all those things that, you hear about in Wall Street movies, and they say you just can't do that anymore. It's actually a lot safer. There's all these safeguards. It's all computerized. There's no kind of, human error allowed. But you're right. I don't feel confident in the fact that there will never ever be another Wall Street crash.
Look at what happened in 2022, which I know particularly about, the LDI crisis, where the Bank of England ended up intervening to bail out those pension funds that were essentially betting on interest rates being low forever.
Yeah.
And they had done that within the regulated environment. So regulations create perverse incentives.
Yes.
The pension funds can't invest in equities, they invest in government bonds, they use derivatives to do that.
Yeah.
It created a blow up in the market, which of course the Bank of England unfairly pointed the blame at me for their failings. But you can't regulate away risk. What you have to do is you have to make sure the person who takes a risk bears the responsibility if it goes wrong. And that is what is fundamentally wrong with our system in every possible way. If you're an entrepreneur in this country, you get taxed to death.
Of course.
So you're taking a massive risk, but you get punished if you're successful. And that is why we've got the fastest rate of millionaires leaving our country of any country in the world.
Right. And now, of course, Rachel Reeves, laughably this week, is asking people who have left the country to come back and come and help restart the economy. People are going, I know people that live abroad, one of them's in my family, and she's like, why would I come back to London? You must be joking. I'm not doing it. She lives in Dubai, and she's like, I wouldn't even consider it. And anybody who is an entrepreneur wouldn't consider it because of all the extra taxes that have been put on and because of this sort of, complete and utter frailty of our economy. I've been saying ever since really Labour got in that I'm convinced there will be some kind of massive economic crash which will force them to actually have an election and which will force them all out. And I don't know why it hasn't happened yet.
Well, the issue is that they have the economic institutions behind them. Unlike when I was in office and the Bank of England was deliberately out to get them, out to get me, the Bank of England basically supports these Keynesian big government policies, and they are printing money. They supported a huge expansion of the state through quantitative easing. It's created a lot of the problems we have now, like why can't young people get on the housing ladder? It was because asset prices were inflated because of quantitative easing. The pound has been hugely debased. Look at inflation. Look at, if you go to the shops or you go out for a meal, how expensive it is now compared to a few years ago. But this is what is happening. We have a system that is deliberately debasing the currency to avoid a financial collapse.
Well, we were just talking earlier about this thing, which again, I somehow missed last week, but this universal credit business where if you want to take a family of 4 to the Tower of London, which would cost you about 100 quid, generally speaking, but if you're on universal credit, you get it for about 4 quid. And I was saying, imagine if you were coming up from somewhere in the Shires, it's probably, for 4 people to come up and down on the train is about 100 quid. About 100 quid to get into the Tower of London before you've even bought lunch or anything like that. Even if you take your kids to McDonald's, that's probably another 20 or 30. You're spending literally 250 quid for a day out. And that's not sustainable, is it, for ordinary people?
No. And we have this what's happened in Britain is huge wage compression.
Yeah.
So the minimum wage has risen a lot. The top earners get taxed a lot. Some people are saying the wage compression now is worse than it was in the Soviet Union in Britain, which is why there's very little incentive to set up a business or go out to work the extra hours, because if you're on benefits, you're going to get just as much. But the problem is we have been told a complete lie by the media about this since Tony Blair came to office, that we live in an incredibly unfair country, that the rich are getting away with not paying any taxes. Every single chancellor has been talking about how their budget reduces inequality, and that should be the main focus. And we ended up with a Conservative government essentially implementing socialist policies, like raising the minimum wage to such a high level it's become untenable. We got massive youth unemployment. Embedding the tax credit system, which, is it 8 million people are now on universal credit?
Yeah.
I mean...
And also encouraging more and more people to come into the country and believing this kind of ideological belief that Boris Johnson had, to be fair, that you can't run a proper modern Western economy without immigration. Absolute nonsense, complete rubbish, because what we've now done is brought all these people into the country who are unskilled, without any real talent to do anything whatsoever. And of course, instead of getting low-paid jobs, they've now decided they're going to come and just go on the benefit system, which is now what we've got. So we're now importing benefit claimants.
We've done two wrong things. We brought the wrong people in, and we brought too many of them in. And a few high-skilled people who are going to return to their countries, okay, but it should be tens of thousands.
That's very small,
I think we should discriminate between different countries. I think there's a big difference between somebody who comes from Japan and somebody who comes from Somalia.
Totally.
And the Home Office, I remember having this discussion when I was in the Trade Department, doing a trade deal with Australia. The Home Office bureaucracy refused to conscience that there was any kind of difference between a deal with Australia and what that would mean for people being able to travel between the two countries. And Nigeria. I'm sorry, there's a massive difference. And it's any normal person in Britain knows that.
Of course. And the same goes for the United States. I remember when I first got married, my wife was American. We moved back to London, having lived in New York for a while. And, they tried to put us through all these ridiculous hoops of, going to, Luna House in Croydon and prove that it's not. And I was like, are you joking? And in the end, I had to sort of pull the Fleet Street card and go, look, I'm not doing it. Just give us the bloody, papers and we'll do it. But it was, trying to do it legally was kind of, meanwhile you're reading in the Sunday papers about all these kind of, arranged marriages and, secret deals being done by people coming in from India. And I'm going, have a look at that. Stop harassing people who have got genuine
But this is what has happened to the British state. It now goes after the people who they think are not going to complain. So they don't go after the illegal immigrants. They go after people who are respectable taxpayers. They go after people who've posted something on X. They go after actual criminals stealing watches on Oxford Street. This is what's happened, but it's a left-wing progressive mentality that the criminal is somehow the victim. That they have had a difficult time and they should be protected. And we've got a human rights lawyer who's Prime Minister. That is his personal philosophy. He believes in open borders. He believes there's no difference between somebody who's from Somalia and somebody who's from Sutton.
Except when it comes to Chagos, where he's more than happy to board a boat which is delivering, what is naturally needed supplies to some people who are living on a British protectorate who are British, right? And he's quite happy to confiscate stuff from them so that they can't actually survive.
Well, that's because he hates the British Empire.
He does. He's absolutely disgraceful. Which brings us on to CPAC, because you've obviously spent a lot of time in America since you left office, and you've seen a way that CPAC operates. I guess for people who don't know what it is in America first, and also what it's going to be here, tell us about CPAC.
So it's a huge convention. It was started in 1974, and I think Ronald Reagan was one of the first people to speak at it. But what it is about is it's about the conservative movement beyond political parties and really revving up those people and galvanising those people to get change. Because the problem we've got in Britain is we have political parties, but there is not enough pressure coming from grassroots people for those political parties when they get into office to actually do what the public want.
Right.
Instead, they get captured by the NGOs, the think tanks, the Westminster
and
elite.
the civil service.
You've been there. You know what these people are like in SW1. It is our version of the swamp.
Right.
And what CPAC US does with, and is, they had the Tea Party movement, the MAGA movement, is actually bring together the grassroots, people who believe in free speech, people who are anti-lockdown, people who want low petrol prices, people who believe in homeschooling, all of the different people who are frustrated with the way that this country is going, bringing them together to galvanise real change.
Yeah. And so you're organising, well, not just you, but the CPAC Britain concept is being organised. And we've got, Pooch, I don't know if you can put it up there, but we've got an offer for people. CPAC Great Britain, London, it's Thursday the 16th to Saturday the 18th of July. You can get discounted tickets because of this show. And you can see there, hopefully you can see it. You go cpac.org/Great Britain/register/Mike Graham. And you can also get accommodation, reduced prices as well. I think it's in East London somewhere.
It's
Excel,
the Intercontinental, next to the O2.
Oh, next to the O2. I know it
O2.
well. I was down there
next to the O2. And it's worth saying, Mike, that we are going to have lots of independent media there.
Yeah.
So your show.
Yes, we will be there.
We'll be there. You will be there. We'll have other leading lights of the British independent media.
Yes.
And it's called Podcast Row.
Right.
So people will be able to watch those shows live. We will have speakers from the Trump administration. We will have speakers from the European sovereignty movement, freedom movement, also from the British political parties, and independent people who aren't affiliated to any party, but just care about the future of our country and are frustrated by the way things are going. And there have been CPACs now in Australia, in Brazil, in Hungary, in Poland. So we're bringing this for the first time to London because we think that Britain is very ripe for the kind of change.
Well, it's interesting. I was going to ask you, I mean, do you think that Britain is, because it's a very strange country now at the moment, I think, because you've got such polarisation, you've got the kind of, as you say, the captured kind of think tanks and civil service and NGOs and maybe even, parts of the country, very much sort of left-leaning. But then you've got what I would call traditional parts of the country, which are very conservative with a small c, and just want all of the things that you just mentioned. They want free speech. They don't want lockdowns. They don't want to be told exactly where they're allowed to go or not go. They don't want to have their road closed off.
They want borders.
They want borders. They want immigration controls. But can you kind of encapsulate what the percentages of those peoples are? I mean, do you think we are a conservative nation?
I think the Brexit vote was quite a good indication.
Yeah.
That 52% voted Brexit and 48% voted Remain. Now, it's probably slightly different from that. And I think the real radical left is probably only about 10% of the country. Yeah. The absolute nutters who think men can become women and, they should have open borders. But the thing is, those people are very, very vocal, and they are loved by the likes of the BBC. They're kind of, they've got very good social media. They're very well funded. They're very well funded by these Soros organisations. So they have a disproportionate say. There's a load of people who go along with them because they don't want to look like they're racist, or they don't want to look like they're transphobic, or frankly they want to hold on to their jobs. And I totally understand. People are under a lot of pressure. Actually, you've seen the case of the nurses who were under massive pressure to have a bloke. In their changing room. So the point is that I think most people in the country are on our side of the argument. The problem is the 10% who are absolute nutters have real power within the media, within the universities, and within the civil service. These extremists are embedded in our civil service.
You talk about the Bank of England. One of the things the Bank of England is very proud of is that apparently on the 8th floor of the Bank of England building, they've got gender-neutral toilets.
Well, that's great, but they can't keep inflation down, can they?
Can you mind doing your job?
They've got the worst record of inflation.
Exactly. But this is the trouble. Same with the armed forces. We learned over the course of the last sort of few weeks when we really needed to have some proper defence of the realm. One, we didn't have enough ships. We didn't have any ships really at all. We had one ship we could send. But don't worry, we've got a lot of really good diversity, inclusion, and equity rules in which govern who gets hired to be in the Royal Navy. the fact that we don't actually have a Royal Navy seems to bypass these people who think, oh yeah, but it's really diverse.
But people are in they're in a false universe.
They are.
And there was an interesting report out this week which said that most British people do not understand how poor we are.
Yeah.
They thought that we are as rich as Switzerland or Germany or United States. No, we're 40% poorer than the United States.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, because they watch the BBC, because they don't engage with the independent media, maybe they don't spend as much time on X as I do, they don't know the truth about what's happening. And part of the purpose of CPAC is bringing people together who understands what's happening so that we can... Because the first step is British people actually understanding how bad the situation is and how rotten the system is and how infiltrated it's become.
Yeah. And so do you need Britain to be more political, if you like, or do people need to be more politicised?
Yes.
Rather than what they sort of are more likely to be, which is that they sort of tootle along and go, well it's all terrible.
Well, they
do something, right?
The problem is the people who are not politicised or think it's not about politics are always the ones on the right.
Yeah.
The left are politicised. They take their views to the office. They're busily being part of the LGBTQIA network or lobbying for gender-neutral toilets or whatever. And the problem is, and this is true of a lot of business people, they've kind of gone along with it.
Yeah.
And they need to start standing up. And one of the interesting things about CPAC America is it does have a lot of business involvement in it.
Yeah.
Because there are people there, say, we talked to a company called Patriot Mobile, which... they are very much part of the agenda in America of delivering common sense policies because they understood they have to step up. Because if they don't, then
and funny enough, we saw
the left win.
And we saw it in Wall Street when Donald Trump won the second time around, and suddenly all of that DEI stuff went out the window.
Yeah.
And suddenly you had people like JP Morgan and Goldman and all these other big, Wall Street companies going, actually, you know what, we don't need that stuff
But those guys are the followers.
Which shows that they didn't believe in it.
But the leaders were people like Elon Musk, who were actually prepared to take a load of flack. He was prepared to take people betting against the Tesla share price to stand up. And we need business leaders like that in Britain who are prepared to stand up against this stuff.
Well, do you remember all the trouble he had when he was trying to fire all the people when he bought Twitter? And all these people were like, we're not leaving, we're going to stay in the office. And he was like, no, you're out. Sorry, I'm the boss now. Go. Just get lost. And I think that's brilliant. Look at and Zuckerberg from Facebook, who suddenly went from being the wokest of the woke to sitting down at Mar-a-Lago with Donald Trump and going, what do you want now? Okay, yeah, here's $1 million. Have $1 million of a donation. What do you make of what's going on with Donald Trump at the moment? A lot of people saying they think that he might have sort of slightly lost the plot. Depicting himself as Jesus. Telling the Iranians, that they're all crazy bastards, open the effing straits of, has he? Do you think he's lost the plot?
People are always writing Donald Trump off.
Yeah.
If you remember back to 2021 and 2022, everyone was like, this guy's not going to get elected as president again.
Right.
And he turned it around.
Yeah.
And his strength in foreign policy is he's unpredictable.
Yes.
And this...
No, I agree with that.
This is what people, the kind of EU types who are technocrats and their strategy has completely failed.
Yeah.
Biden's strategy completely failed on Iran.
Yeah.
Iran were on the point of getting a nuclear weapon.
Right.
Now, do I know what's going to happen next? No, I don't. But if I had to choose between Trump or Biden, I'd still choose Trump.
No, well, this is the other problem that I still have with the mainstream sort of media is that they talk about the Iranians as though they should be trusted and believed, and they're going.
I've personally dealt with the Iranians.
Right, have you?
Over Nazanin Zahawi Ratcliffe, and I know exactly how they work.
They're basically liars. I mean, it's part of their culture,
and
I'm sorry if anybody doesn't like that, but I'll say it again if you like. Iranians are liars because that's the way they do business in the Middle East. They don't tell you the truth. They obfuscate it. They try and get an advantage over you. They do exactly what you don't want them to do, and then they blame you for why they've done it. And people have seemingly forgotten that they bankrolled Hamas, they bankrolled Hezbollah. They are the single biggest source of all terrorism in the world. Why the hell are we even considering whether we should treat them properly?
But there's a very, this goes back to the left and the funding of these left-wing organisations.
Yeah.
Look what happened after October the 7th.
Yeah.
The day after that appalling massacre and terrible, heinous crimes were committed, the left were already on the march about Gaza and, this is what they do.
They were outside the Israeli embassy, I think, that night.
This is what they do.
Yeah.
This is what they do.
Right, but they, as you
say...
say...
there are too many people who think this is just some kind of neutral thing and it's just a play on geopolitics. No, it's not. These people are evil. They want to take over the world with their radical Islamist philosophy.
Right.
And
destroy Israel as well, into the bargain.
They are on the march.
Yeah.
And they're on the march in Britain, they're on the march in Western Europe, they're on the march in the United States of America, and we have to fight them with everything we've got.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And so the media, again, I mean, I find to be completely and utterly complicit in this. I mean, I was watching last weekend that ridiculous interview that Robert Peston did with
I think you should
Keir
lower your
Starmer.
blood pressure by not watching Times Radio and not watching Robert Peston. This is my advice to you, Mike, about how you can live a healthy life. Have you considered Heart 80s? I find that a much more relaxing station to tune into.
No, because they annoy me. The music annoys me as well. I like being annoyed. I actually, my hair grows faster when I'm stressed out and annoyed. But he actually had an opportunity to. I mean, one of my pet subjects is Morgan McSweeney and his bloody missing phone. And the fact that, for me, this is one of the biggest scandals in modern politics in this century, right? That Peter Mandelson, Morgan McSweeney, God knows who else, were involved in all manner of corruption, selling secrets, whatever it was, right? Massive story. Everybody's just forgotten about it. He gets an opportunity to ask questions to Keir Starmer, and they walk around in the Middle East, and he says to him, "Who's your favourite WhatsApp leader on this sort of international stage?" He goes, "Oh, I quite like the Finnish Prime Minister." And I'm going, why are you not bloody well asking him about where the hell is Morgan McSweeney's phone?
But the only way that we are going to defeat the mainstream media is tune out of them.
Yeah.
Not talk about them.
Yeah.
They have to be frozen out like verrucas.
Well, they're freezing themselves out because their numbers are literally going like that.
Yeah, but you're watching them.
Yeah, but not for long. Not for long enough. I know the secrets, right? So I go, like, if I log off after 4.5 minutes, it doesn't count.
Okay.
But I've also got to hold them to account because I think it's up to people like us as well to point out to the people who are now in growing numbers
is the battle.
watching this show, right? The reason they watch this show is because I don't bullshit them. I tell them the truth. They can disagree with me, they can argue with me, but what I won't do is pretend, for example, like the BBC. They did a thing the other day about the two-child benefit cap being lifted, right? First time ever on their website, they used a white family because they wanted to project that was the two-child benefit cap beneficiaries, when everybody knows the two-child benefit cap beneficiaries are largely foreign-born, largely not white, and largely having a great time, thanks very much indeed, off the taxpayer. But suddenly the BBC goes, for the first time ever, oh, let's have a white family there, that will look good. And you just go, that's crap, it's rubbish, right? And they need to know that, the people that watch this show.
They do. The best way is for them to watch this show, get on X, watch other independent media, watch the Liz Truss show, come to CPAC,
yes,
GB. This is, we need to build a movement of people who understand exactly what is wrong with Britain and who are prepared to step up to help fix it. Because it can't just be left to the political parties. And what we see
because they're no good at it.
But also what we see with the political parties, and I know this from having been in the government for a long time, is the sheer pressure on them to conform. You can see that on Nigel Farage, the sheer pressure to go along with the status quo, to keep the Bank of England unaccountable, to keep the OBR. These are all the institutions of the failed state that need to be dismantled, but he is under massive pressure. And there needs to be countervailing pressure from people who actually want Britain to change.
Yes.
Because there's a hell of a load of people, and you alluded to them earlier, who are part of this system. They're part of the blob. They've got cushy jobs in the civil service. They're on benefits, or they're working in big corporations that are all regulated by the government. I mean, so much is controlled by the government now. That these, these senior corporate leaders want to spend their time sucking up to Keir Starmer and his cabinet, unfortunately.
Well, look at Morgan McSweeney. I mean, again, just to go back to him, he's off to the Ukraine now, where apparently he's going to help Zelensky win the next election, whenever it is they have one. And he just thinks to himself, hang on a minute, he's only just left the British government. Shouldn't there be some kind of reason why he can't do that? Or No doubt he'll do it, and he'll do his little rounds.
I mean, to be honest, I'm in favour of quite a lot of these people leaving the country.
Well, yeah, absolutely right. And no, I can't. There are some things I can't say, but
go on.
I was going to say no. It's something to do with a missile. Anyway, but then they just go around and they come back to square one again, and then suddenly they're in the House of Lords or something like that. And it's just this game to them.
Well, I see the ultimate example as Mark Carney.
Yeah.
Mark Carney was at the Bank of Canada.
Yeah.
A lot of the problems that the Bank of England faces were his fault.
Yeah.
He's now Prime Minister of Canada
I know.
via the World Economic Forum. And there's just a circuit of these people. And the only bulwark to take those people on is the public.
Yeah.
That is the only bulwark, because all of our institutions have been captured. The police,
and
the
we
BBC.
still do. If the public does get galvanised, there is still enough power inside of the British, population to actually do change things and get something.
But I think Brexit is a really good example of the British public voted for change, but there wasn't the follow through on actually sorting out the way the British state
Boris
worked.
is not a details guy, is he? That's
but
the
it
problem.
wasn't just Boris. There was a whole bunch of people who didn't really want things to change, who went in with Boris and surrounded Boris.
Yeah.
And you had the resistance of the state itself. You had the media just constantly being hysterical about everything.
Yeah.
And that's why the alternative media is so important. That's why having a movement's important, to actually take those people on. Because I can see the same thing happening, even if you get a radical prime minister elected in 29, will just be like Armageddon. Suddenly all the financial problems that are being hidden under the carpet at the moment will emerge, they'll pop up.
Right.
And
so do you worry then that Farage and Reform can't be radical enough to change everything?
Well, I think that the conditions in Britain at present, there's not enough backing for the deep changes that are needed. I don't think... the fact that the public still believe that we're as rich as America tells me that a lot of people don't understand how bad it is here. And
well, is it Douglas Carswell who says that if we were a state in America,
well, he's very smug about that, because he's in Mississippi. He's now richer than us.
Right. And I've been to Mississippi, and there are literally corrugated huts that people live in. I mean, it's not a rich state, but we would be on the bottom end. And we're already now, we're told now that we're the worst performing country in the G7, and we will be for quite some time.
Yeah, but it's obvious why.
Yeah.
It's completely obvious why. We're not using our own energy supply. We're not fracking. We're not drilling oil and gas in the North Sea.
Yeah.
We've got a very high minimum wage. We've got incredibly high taxes, the highest for 70 years.
Yeah.
We've got all of these laws and legislation, like human rights legislation, that basically suppress people. They're suppressing free speech.
Yeah.
Is it surprising the country is in such deep trouble? No, it's not.
It really isn't. It really isn't. Pooch, are we switching over, or what are we doing?
Let's do a quick switch over.
We can do a quick switch over. We've got a new channel which we're building, which I haven't possibly mentioned to you before. It's called UK Live, because what we want to do is we do this great show which everybody loves, and we get to 9:30, and there's currently 11,000 people watching it. And there will be 100,000 people watching it by the end of the day. But we think they've got nowhere to go. And so we go, right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to put more shows on, and we're going to actually hire more people to do. I mean, obviously, I can't do everything as much as I would like to. I have offered.
You're too busy watching Robert Peston.
I know, that's the thing. Yeah, it's another 4 minutes of my life wasted. So we've said, look, here's what we're going to do. We're going to actually create a proper independent media channel, which is going to be called News UK Live. It's going to be right-leaning, but it's going to be different. There'll be different types of shows. There'll be personal finance shows. There'll be, drive time shows. So we're very excited about it. So what we do at 9:30, we switch it over to UK Live. So we'll do that now, if we can. Yeah. If you're listening, you can all you got to do is just hit the button on the YouTube feed. And it's happening